Chapter 775. Poplar Fruit thought that as long as he ignored the rumors on the internet, it would not affect his life. Therefore, he leisurely walked the streets in Bali and went shopping, buying gifts for his family and friends. His life was very comfortable. It was not until he received an overseas call from his teacher, Chun Zongdai, that he realized that things were not so simple. Poplar Fruit, what are you doing abroad? Chun Zongdai scolded Poplar Fruit as soon as he called. The whole city is talking about you, and the whole world is talking about you. The reporters are always hanging around the school. It's so annoying. The old man did not use social media much. After all, he was an older generation. He learned about the hot social news through the same channels as people in the 1990s, watching TV and reading newspapers. If even Chun Zongdai knew about Poplar Fruit, one could imagine how much trouble Poplar Fruit had caused in China. I'm not doing anything. Poplar Fruit wiped his cold sweat and said with shame, as you reported before, I came abroad to help a friend, to be a model. In the past, Chun Zongdai did not care much about what Poplar Fruit wanted to do. He gave Poplar Fruit the greatest freedom, as long as he completed the academic tasks he arranged for him. Hey, you're a stupid scholar. Why are you a model? Chun Zongdai said with disappointment. You don't do what you're good at, and you do meaningless things. You deserve to be scolded by others. The old man had worked hard his whole life in academia. He felt that academia was the only way to change the world, and it was a career worth fighting for. Poplar Fruit did not agree with this statement, but he did not want to talk back to the old man. So he just laughed and did not answer. It's not that easy to survive abroad. Chun Zongdai persuaded earnestly. Look at Brother Zhou Fa, a big star. He went abroad for a few years and came back with his tail between his legs. We have to establish a foothold abroad, and then look at the world. Tell me, you haven't even established a foothold in the country. How can you be so ambitious? The old man's words were a bit blunt, but in fact he had a good heart. He also wanted his disciple to live a better life. Currently, domestic print news was lagging behind. It was not as close to the internet as it would be in the future. Poplar Fruit had already shone brightly for more than 3 days, but they were still talking about the cold rice of foreign media. On the other hand, social media reacted quickly. They reposted screenshots of foreign news or trending news on Twitter, feeding back Poplar Fruit's current situation to the vast number of netizens. People on the internet were divided into several factions. Some supported Poplar Fruit, a grassroots genius, while others mocked and ridiculed him. What was even more interesting was that fans of some big stars jumped up and said that no matter how well Poplar Fruit did, he was still just a small model. How could he compare to their brother Spring and Master Fan? There was no lack of internet water army among them, but this statement became more and more popular, and soon it caused a backlash from the general public. Most people on the internet were actually grassroots in their daily lives. They had long been sick of those big stars who eagerly went abroad one by one and kissed the cold buttocks of others. Seeing that their fans were so shameless, the netizens couldn't help but ridicule them. Glamorous? You're naked, aren't you? Each one of you is more revealing than the other. You don't even know if you have breasts. The two sides had wave after wave of scolding war on the internet. Both sides were arguing for what was right. Yang Guo, on the other hand, was not involved in this storm, because the focus had already shifted from him to the controversy of celebrities participating in Fashion Week. However, Poplar Fruit couldn't care so much now. He had to appease his indignant teacher. Poplar Fruit laughed. Teacher, don't believe the nonsense of the news. Your student didn't embarrass you. My performance was not bad. Poplar Fruit laughed. You didn't see how many people asked for my autograph in the past 2 days. Poplar Fruit spoke in high spirits, but in fact he was a little modest. In a fashion capital like Bali, the status of a model was not low. After Poplar Fruit's success, not only did the reporters want to interview him, but also many fans who were impressed by Poplar Fruit ran to Poplar Fruit to take photos with him. Some even asked for his autograph as if they were chasing a star. You're bragging. You want to sign autographs? Chun Zongdai's tone was disdainful, but his raised voice couldn't hide the joy in his heart. Haha, teacher, you'll know later. Poplar Fruit said confidently. What do you mean later? Chun Zongdai said vigilantly. Do you want to continue being a model in the future? Poplar fruit, I'm telling you, there's no way. I'm giving you a month's leave, and that's already a big tolerance. Don't forget that you're still my student. Chun Zongdai was not sure. He knew that the outside world was fascinating, and that many young people pursued a glamorous life. He was most worried that Poplar fruit would stay in Bali and not come back. Poplar fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How could I forget? Teacher, don't worry. My main job is still to study and be an excellent translator. It's good that you understand. Chun Zongdai said seriously. Indulging in luxury can't compare to your own heart. Only knowledge can make you stronger. Yes, yes. Poplar fruit finally understood why he liked to preach so much. He was more or less influenced by his teacher. The old man hesitated and said, also, don't be hit by other people's sugar-coated bullets, especially that old man Luo Lin. Oh, what's wrong with Professor Luo? Poplar fruit heard the old man's vigilance against Professor Luo Lin. He was a little amused. Luo Lin and Chun Zongdai could actually be considered old friends. It was just that when it came to fighting over Yanggua, the two of them were like children, fighting both openly and covertly. With the old man's exaggeration, Poplar fruit learned that Professor Luo Lin stood up for Poplar fruit yesterday. Professor Luo Lin beat the old man to it. At this time, Chun Zongdai also sent a message to the media he was familiar with. However, he always felt that he was one step behind and lost face. Chun Zongdai said sourly, he can only do this kind of thing in hindsight. Poplar fruit smiled and could only comfort his teacher that he didn't care about this. Although he was grateful, he wouldn't be poached by Beijing International Studies University. Right, there's an application from outside of Beijing. They want to establish an exchange program with our university. They want you to exchange outside of Beijing next semester. Chun Zongdai thought for a moment and said, it mainly depends on your opinion. They said that they won't force you. However, if you don't want to go, they still want to send someone to participate in your research. Next year. I don't think I can do it next year. Poplar fruit's focus next year was on Guangzhou. Moreover, he just got together with Fang Beibei. How could he bear to leave? Then I'll tell them that you're not going. Chun Zongdai laughed and said, if there's a chance, I'll send you to Monterey. It's many times better than outside of Beijing. Poplar fruit, you can't slack off. Those guys outside of Beijing just want a piece of the cake. Chun Zongdai smiled and continued, hurry up and research. Try to write another paper in the second half of the year. There's a translation conference in Macau next year. I'll send you there. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 776. Chun Zongdai had given Poplar fruit a bunch of academic tasks, but Poplar fruit didn't think it was a big deal. He was now a top student. He worked and played during the day, and came back at night to help his little master bathe and sleep. After that, he still had time to translate and read books. Poplar fruit was now familiar with his modeling work. He started to multitask again. Except for the few seconds when he was on stage. When he was doing makeup and waiting, he was chatting with others and translating in his mind. On Western social media, the topic of Poplar fruit hadn't cooled down. Previously, people were talking about Poplar fruit's amazing performance on the main stage. Later, people were talking about Poplar fruit's connections and talent. First, people talked about his connections. Alan from Blizzard and Lian, the famous director, spoke up for him. Later, there were photos of Poplar fruit, Princess Charlotte and the Beckhams talking happily. In fact, Poplar fruit and Princess Charlotte had only met 4 times. Except for the exchange on the main stage, they hadn't contacted each other since. However, Princess Charlotte had expressed her affection for Poplar fruit many times in interviews. He's polite and a talented man. I'm very happy to be friends with him. I also like his daughter very much. Princess Charlotte's statement that they were just friends was automatically ignored by the media. It became an anecdote on the internet, and people seriously discussed the possibility of the two people being together. The Beckhams and Poplar fruit did become good friends, mainly because of Kiki and Xiaoqi's friendship and the 3 boys' worship of Poplar fruit's muscles. Beckham, who was obsessed with her daughter, crazily posted pictures of the 2 sisters, Little Seven and Chi-Chi, holding hands and playing in the park. Chi-Chi, who was also pretty and had 2 ponytails, tried her best to act like a big sister protecting her younger sister. This made many netizens who liked Xiao-Chi shout, "Angel Girl." It coincided with the origin of Kiki's name. There was a time when the Angel Girl had overshadowed Poplar Fruit's limelight. However, when BBC launched Evolution of Models, Poplar Fruit once again became the focus of discussion on the internet. According to the usual practice of BBC documentaries, they would not rigidly play only the video materials provided by Ardell. In the process of the video, there were many interviews with the relevant staff of Givenchy and the audience. Of course, Mattis and Victor were the funniest. These 2 show-off guys added a lot of joy to the entire documentary. None of this could hide how outstanding Poplar Fruit was. The documentary, with the timeline as the main storyline, through the delicate hands of the editor, was like a fast-paced dance song, allowing people to see the speed of Yonghua's progress with the naked eye. If you are like me, standing in front of a genius and watching him learn, you will also be fascinated. Even the most boring and repetitive training is worth looking forward to. Matisse said in poetic English with a French accent, "If I hadn't taught Poplar Fruit, I wouldn't have believed that there were geniuses in this world. I once pointed out one of Leon's mistakes, and then I just drank a mouthful of water and played with the lovely Kiki for a while. When I came back, he had already learned it." Barbara was also interviewed, and she said with a smile, "Fortunately, I'm not a model. Otherwise, when I taught Poplar Fruit, I would not only have gained a sense of accomplishment, but also a lot of frustration." Babla revealed her pearly white teeth and smiled happily. You have to know that the speed at which geniuses improve makes people feel like they are useless. "Barbara, are you talking about me?" Giselle appeared in the camera, and next to her was a row of captions listing her past achievements. Giselle sat elegantly, and her slender legs under her short skirt made people's hearts sway. Although she had retired from the modeling industry for many years, she still maintained her figure very well. "Okay, I admit that I was jealous." Giselle covered her mouth and laughed. "But later, I figured out that Leon and I were not at the same level. Instead of being jealous, it was better to participate in his growth and witness the rise of a genius model. It was a happy thing." The BBC used the interviewer's narration to interpret the documentary from the perspective of other people, except for Poplar Fruit. Not only did it make the boring record lively and interesting, but it also added a sense of reality. In the middle, the BBC also introduced Poplar Fruit's background. According to the information in our hands, this rare genius in the modeling industry, the new king of this year's Bali Fashion Week, is actually a language genius. The BBC went to find Poplar Fruit to record a video. In the video, Poplar Fruit fluently introduced himself in 13 languages. Although it was very old-fashioned, in the face of strength, even old-fashioned forms could hold up. In order to verify, the BBC also invited several Eastern and Western linguistics professors from the University of Bath to evaluate. Among them, one of the Eastern linguistics professors was shocked after listening to Poplar Fruit's self-introduction in Sanskrit. He said that his spoken English had surpassed all the students at the University of Bath. The University of Bath was not a small player. It was ranked 8th in the United Kingdom, and ranked 4th in the world in terms of linguistics. Many famous diplomats in China were born in this university. Of course, this was just a small episode, because most people did not understand Poplar Fruit's meaning in languages other than his mother tongue. Except for language students, few people realized that Poplar Fruit was not ordinary. Back to Poplar Fruit's growth. When the BBC inserted the story that Poplar Fruit was besieged by almost all the fashion magazines and entertainment tabloids in Bali in September, the audience's hearts were in their throats again. As expected, Ardell appeared in the camera again. In front of the camera, he looked 20 years younger, not because of the makeup but because of the recent good news. He was in high spirits and didn't look like a 60-year-old man at all. "Leon is my muse." Ardell was not stingy with his praise at all. He also talked about the story of Poplar Fruit in the past year. "Leon stimulated my creative ability," Ardell said excitedly. "As you can see, when I first met him, I was attracted by his scholarly temperament and perfect body. After watching the BBC documentary, people really understood that the Splash Ink series of Givenchy's brilliant fashion collection this year had such a legendary birth experience. A Chinese man's elegant temperament, a baby girl less than 1 year old, and a naughty mistake could inspire a designer to create such an influential work. It sounded like the ravings of a novelist, but it really happened in people's lives. This kind of feeling was faint and gentle, just like the spread of sunlight, making people slowly let go of their worries. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations, greater than over equal to. Chapter 777. Throughout the documentary, the emotional changes of twists and turns accompanied them all the way. It had to be said that the BBC's editing ability and storytelling skills were excellent. There are many reports that say that I have the ability to judge people. Poplar Fruit's success is inseparable from my trust in him, Ardles said firmly. But in fact, rather than saying that I made Poplar Fruit, it's better to say that Poplar Fruit made me. As soon as he finished speaking, a fast-paced accompaniment with some heavy metal elements sounded. The scene changed, and Poplar Fruit appeared on the runway wearing wolf head underwear. Although it was not the original stage accompaniment, this accompaniment seemed to be more suitable for Poplar Fruit's show. Every step that Poplar Fruit took, there was a kind of explosive sound that could tear the world apart. And as Poplar Fruit's momentum on the stage increased, the rhythm and drumbeat of the accompaniment became faster and faster. It was a bit like Warcraft's prelude to the undead. Listening to it, one would feel as if a lot of ants were climbing on one's body. This kind of oppressive and uncomfortable feeling made people want to release, but they couldn't. Poplar Fruit stepped on the end of the runway and looked at the camera. In fact, he didn't have any real focus. At that moment, the accompaniment music also reached a peak. It was as if a berserk warrior had torn his shirt apart. It was as if a bolt of lightning had suddenly streaked across the sky from the dark clouds. It was as if a dull football match had suddenly been interrupted by a player who had bypassed 11 players, including the goalkeeper. Everyone's blood was boiling. Seeing this, almost all the hot-blooded young people wanted to stand up and shout. After this, it was the end of the film. The BBC selected several of Poplar Fruit's particularly outstanding shows and edited them into a Xiao Duan movie ending. Although it was not as hot as the wolf head underwear, it was still so wonderful that even people who didn't know how to walk the runway couldn't help but praise it. After the documentary was broadcast, under Ardles' reminder, Poplar Fruit also watched it on YouTube. To be honest, even he himself didn't think that he was that outstanding. Looking at him made him blush a little. However, humans were vain. Not only did Poplar Fruit pay to download it to his computer, to show it to Fong Beibei, he also secretly translated a subtitle and used a newly registered account to post it on the Chinese Sagittarius website. Poplar Fruit had checked, and he was the first one to post it. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and awkwardly deleted the translation and subtitling traces on his computer. He then guiltily comforted himself that this was actually just to spread the English video, so that more fans could watch it and learn English. In fact, the viewership ratings for this documentary were not high. Just like the other BBC documentaries, without any promotion, only documentary enthusiasts sat in front of their televisions to watch this program. However, when the documentary was uploaded to the internet and broadcasted to the world through the BBC's YouTube channel, it slowly became popular. After all, Poplar Fruit had recently become a popular person on the internet. Many people were searching for news about him, and were eager to know more about him. Such a video just happened to satisfy their needs. Through continuous reposting and comments, the number of views on the video increased exponentially. The administrator even promoted the video to the front page for promotion, which showed how popular it was. Before this video, people were talking about Poplar Fruit's connections. After this video, people finally realized how outstanding Poplar Fruit was. This was not something that others gave him. It was not something that a few tabloids hyped up. It was also not something that the standards of this year's Bali Fashion Week had greatly reduced, and Poplar Fruit had outshone everyone else. People could see Poplar Fruit's talent. They could see his hard work day and night. They could also see his steady but rapid training process. So what if he was a genius? Only such a hard-working genius was worthy of people's admiration and praise. On the internet, except for some unscrupulous agencies like The Sun and some unscrupulous agencies that wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to deceive people's attention, almost all of the praises were one-sided. At this moment, Poplar Fruit was Leon. He was a legend himself. He was not a lucky person who knew anyone. However, in China, the news of Poplar Fruit's outstanding performance had just spread. Who was Poplar Fruit? Until now, there were still many people who did not know him. Not to mention Qiandu and Qianka, even Qiandu's Tieba had not been set up yet. Everyone was just at the stage of ridiculing and fooling around on Weibo. This was the disadvantage of not having an agency. If it were another small star with an agency, they would definitely announce such a large amount of attention in such a short time. It would be a waste if they did not seize the opportunity. It would be a crime to waste it. Many agencies were beating their chests and stamping their feet, feeling that it was not worth it for him. Poplar Fruit did not have the joy of being famous. He did not even have the concept of being famous. For him, helping Ardal to fulfill his wish was the completion of his mission in Bali. Sister Fong Min, help me send these things back to China. Poplar Fruit packed 5 oversized suitcases and handed them to Fong Min with some embarrassment. This time he bought a lot of things, more than the last time he went back to the United States. There was no other way. He was at Bali Fashion Week, and it just so happened that the major brand stores were taking advantage of the situation to have a discount. Poplar Fruit had to buy cheap branded goods for his relatives and friends at home. What made Poplar Fruit most angry was Song Jiwen. 2 days ago, Poplar Fruit called Song Jiwen. He was worried that his mood would be affected by the public opinion on the internet, so he specifically told him the actual situation. In the end, Song Jiwen waited for him to finish talking and said indifferently, "Oh, is that so? If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. By the way, why are you still in Bali? I thought you came back." Poplar Fruit was a little hurt by his words. He gloomily shouted at this idiot, "Hey, can you at least care about me? You don't even know if I came back from Bali?" Recently, Song Jiwen and Chen Anlin had been taking care of the newly rented Tai Chi dojo day and night. It was hard to go to work during the day, and at night, they had to drive rolls of tatami mats and Chen Anlin to the dojo to decorate it. He was so tired that he felt dizzy. Wait a minute. Poplar Fruit heard a commotion from the phone. And then Chen Anlin took over the phone. "Brother Yang, are you still in Bali? Can you help me buy a bag and perfume? I want." Song Jiwen's voice was mixed in with her voice. "Don't raise your foot to my face." Later, under Chen Anlin's lead, Song Jiwen also gave Poplar Fruit a list of things he wanted to buy for his leader. This made Poplar Fruit a little angry. "You don't care about me, and you still want me to buy things for you? No way." But in the end, Poplar Fruit still bought it, and one of the big boxes was Song Jiwen's. Poplar Fruit was going to the United States, so he asked Fong Min to send the luggage back to Song Jiwen. Looking at Fong Min's helpless and amused expression, Poplar Fruit cupped his hands and smiled apologetically. "Sister Fong Min, please, please. Thank you to Book Friends Only Love and Book Friends Apply and Old White Hair for your consolation and rewards. With your support, Little Han's hard work is worth it." Chapter 778. By the time he gave Fong Min the box and asked her to send it back, there was only 1 day left before the Poplar Fruit show. During the day, Poplar Fruit sent Yin Xingyu and Yi Jing, the 2 students, to the airport. The nearly week-long trip to Bali allowed Yin Xingyu and Yi Jing to enjoy the exotic scenery. According to them, they spent the past few days playing during the day and at night. Then they would edit photos in the middle of the night and show crazily on Weibo and Qzone, making the students who couldn't make it jealous. However, because of the pressure that Poplar Fruit gave them at the beginning, Yin Xingyu and Yi Jing's reading ability had improved significantly. Although they were still a little far from Poplar Fruit's expectations, Poplar Fruit didn't confiscate their bags for the sake of their hard work. Fong Min went to send the box, and Ardal also went to attend some exchange meeting. She would come back tomorrow to send Poplar Fruit. Matisse and Victor finished work early today, so they went to enjoy their romantic time together. Even Kiki went to the park with Sister Luo Danny today. Back at the hotel, only Poplar Fruit was left alone. It's too early. It's not even dark yet. Don't you have anything to do? Poplar Fruit felt a little bored. He suddenly thought of Duan Xueqing. He didn't know if that girl had gone back yet. After meeting her once, he hadn't seen her again. Instead, he had met her family's buyer, Tao Buqing, twice. At that time, Duan Xueqing hadn't gone back yet. He picked up his phone and dialed Duan Xueqing's number. In the end, the phone was turned off. Turned off. Poplar Fruit scratched his head. He thought for a while and looked at the phone in confusion. He muttered, "Is she on the plane? That's possible. But she didn't even tell me when she went back. Sigh, she's so boring." Duan Xueqing had indeed boarded the plane back to China. She was even 2 flights earlier than Yin Xingyu. She was still flying in the air. Poplar Fruit didn't know that there was such a story behind Duan Xueqing's return. That day, Pai Dinwan was beaten black and blue. He didn't dare to see Duan Xueqing and secretly hid in his room. He thought he would feel better after a good night's sleep. In the end, when he woke up the next day, the bruises were even darker. Moreover, every time he moved, it would affect his muscles and cause him to grimace in pain. Duan Xueqing didn't see him, so she frowned and went to the room to look for him. Pai Dinwan could no longer dodge. Duan Xueqing stared at him and didn't say anything, but her intention to interrogate him was obvious on her face. Pai Dinwan hesitated for a while, then stole Poplar Fruit's idea of a robbery to deceive Duan Xueqing. "I had no choice. I drank some wine and wasn't very sober when I came out. I don't know how I ended up there," Pai Dinwan said frankly. "Fortunately, Poplar Fruit happened to pass by and helped me deal with the robbers. I didn't expect the security in Bali to be so chaotic." Pai Dinwan didn't hide the fact that Poplar Fruit was rescued. He knew that it was impossible to hide it. If Duan Xueqing called Poplar Fruit and Poplar Fruit mentioned it, he would be exposed. However, when Pai Dinwan talked about Poplar Fruit, his mood was still complicated. Duan Xueqing didn't say anything, but silently took him to the hospital for treatment. Although Pai Dinwan had stayed abroad for a while, Duan Xueqing spoke English better. During the whole process of seeing a doctor, Pai Dinwan followed Duan Xueqing stupidly, watching her communicate with the doctors and nurses in France in fluent English. After checking that there was no internal injury, Pai Dinwan returned to the hotel. Duan Xueqing returned to her silent state after returning, but she didn't go back to her room without looking back. Instead, she applied medicine on Pai Dinwan's wound before going back. When applying the medicine, although Duan Xueqing's cold breath had a cooling effect, the pink atmosphere in the room was still circulating, and the temperature was rising slowly. Pai Dinwan stared at Duan Xueqing in a daze, but Duan Xueqing avoided his eyes. After applying the medicine, she lowered her head and went back without saying a word. After a long time, Pai Dinwan's faint sigh came from the room. This feeling was very subtle, wasn't it? Pai Dinwan was silent. He raised his left arm and looked at the traces of the medicine on the outside of his left arm. At that time, Pai Dinwan thought silently. Just now, Duan Xueqing was supporting herself on the sofa next to his waist, almost lying on top of him while applying the medicine on his left cheek. Although Duan Xueqing's head was raised very high, their bodies were very close to each other. At that time, if he took advantage of the situation and hugged her, just like in the movies, perhaps she wouldn't have rejected him? This silly woman. How could she be so intimate with a man who wasn't even in a relationship? Pai Dinwan felt a little angry at her for not fighting back. However, Pai Dinwan was restraining his palpitating heart from beginning to end, and he was rejecting the call from the depths of his heart. In other words, he seemed to be terrified. Pai Dinwan's heart had been tormented for the past few days. Yesterday, after Pai Dinwan received a phone call, his mood became completely terrible. "Are you injured?" The words seemed to be concerned, but Pai Dinwan couldn't feel the warmth of being greeted by the voice on the phone. From the beginning, there was always such a mysterious person behind Pai Dinwan. Pai Dinwan had never seen him, and neither had his rich second-generation friend. He only knew that this mysterious person, who he called Mr. Li, was a huge existence that even his friend's family couldn't resist. Yes. Pai Dinwan was silent for a while, and answered honestly. "Were you beaten up by those tabloid reporters?" Laughter came from the phone. Pai Din-won felt a chill all over his body, and a thought popped up in his head. Could it be that they sent them? Don't think too much. The person on the other end of the phone snorted, as if he knew what he was thinking. You brought this upon yourself. I asked you to send the information out, but you sold it for money. If it were me, I'd beat you up too. No, I would chop you up with a knife. What do you want me to do? Pai Din-won gritted his teeth and interrupted. What do I want you to do? Ha 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 ha. The person on the phone laughed as if he had lost his mind. Suddenly, he stopped and said gloomily, I want you to tell Duan Xiueqing that your face was beaten up by poplar fruit. Pai Din-won's eyes suddenly widened. He took 2 deep breaths and asked, Why are you so against him? I don't understand. You don't King need to understand. The person on the phone suddenly roared. I give you an order so you do it. After it's done, I'll give you 1 million. It's that simple. Understand? After that, the phone call was hung up. Silence, silence. The atmosphere in the room was so oppressive that it condensed into a lump. After a long time, Pai Din-won came out and went to Duan Xiueqing's room. He knocked on the door and asked her to come out. He looked into her eyes and said softly, Let's go back, okay? Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 779. At the airport, Poplar Fruit reluctantly said goodbye to Artel, Luo Danny, and Fong Min. She still had to report her work in Bali for a while. Holding Kiki, who was crying again, he resolutely boarded the plane to the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. But when the plane took off, Poplar Fruit was a little absent-minded when he saw the wings of the plane flying over Bali from the window. The past was like clouds and smoke, and the ostentatiousness was in vain. Although it was not so exaggerated, in the past month, Poplar Fruit had experience from being unknown to being famous all over the world, from being criticized by the whole city to being praised by the people. Now that he thought about it, it felt a little unreal. It was a bit like riding a roller coaster in a dream. Now that he had woken up from the dream, he had returned to the stable reality. But this feeling was quite good, and it did not change his attitude towards life. He had an extraordinary experience in life, and finally returned to being ordinary, continuing to live his own peaceful life. Poplar Fruit was holding Kiki, who was a little tired from crying and lying on his body, and the corner of his mouth was slightly raised. He seemed to be in a very good mood. Poplar Fruit did not know that it was not so easy for him to live a peaceful life. Now he was a famous person. Even if he did not recognize it, others would not think so. Leon? Is that Leon? At the door of the first-class cabin, 2 flight attendants who were a little excited and a little curious gathered. It should be. Look at my daughter in his arms. Isn't that the angel girl on Twitter, Kiki? Then it should be. The blonde flight attendant with blue eyes was excited. I love his catwalk. I have never seen such a domineering man. It's fascinating. I don't know much about fashion, but I think his catwalk is a kind of art. Another flight attendant with brown hair and crystal blue eyes agreed. What should we do? Just like before, ask him if he wants to drink, and then ask him for an autograph. Oh, I feel a little embarrassed to disturb him. Look, his daughter is asleep. The blonde stewardess hesitated. This was the area she was in charge of. The brown-haired air stewardess snatched her plate and smiled proudly. If you don't want to go, I'll go for you. Who knows, maybe when he sees my eyes, he won't be able to resist giving me his phone number. Are you crazy? He already has a daughter. The blonde air stewardess looked at her in disbelief. I'm not talking about dating him. The brown-haired air stewardess charmingly smiled and said, If she likes my type, I don't mind spending a night with her. You have to know that this big boy is a strong guy. Thinking back to the Poplar Fruit show, the brown-haired air stewardess couldn't help but want to lick the screen and touch his muscular body. The brown-haired air stewardess couldn't help but feel a little excited. The blonde stewardess looked at her speechlessly and said helplessly, All right, go ahead. Don't forget to get an autograph for me. The brown-haired air stewardess first looked at the pantry mirror to tidy up her hair and put on her lipstick. Finally, she used both hands to support her bulging chest and squeezed it in the middle. looking at the brown-haired air stewardess wobbling into the first-class cabin. The blonde air stewardess shook her head and stood at the door to peek. Poplar Fruit had a very sharp sixth sense. He felt that someone was walking in his direction. He subconsciously raised his head to take a look. It turned out to be an air stewardess. Poplar Fruit smiled at her. The brown-haired air stewardess was accidentally electrocuted. Looking at Poplar Fruit, she felt that her brain wasn't enough. Her head was a little dizzy and she forgot what she wanted to say. However, if she noticed that Poplar Fruit didn't pay attention to her figure or her proud blue eyes, then she would definitely be depressed. "Hello, may I ask, is there anything I can help you with?" Poplar Fruit saw that the other party was stunned and asked curiously. He spoke in French. After all, this was a French national airline. Oh, the brown-haired air stewardess seemed to have awoken from a dream. Her face was red as she bent down and asked, "May I ask, do you need anything to drink?" Although she bent down, because the air stewardess's collar was higher, and she was bound by the rules, her buttons couldn't be unbuttoned. Therefore, Poplar Fruit didn't feel that there was anything wrong with it. At this time, the brown-haired air stewardess was a little depressed. The rules were originally meant to protect the air stewardess from being harassed by some salty guests. Now it had become her restriction. Poplar Fruit lowered his head and muttered, "A glass of ice water." "Okay." The brown-haired air stewardess habitually nodded and walked back. At this time, she remembered that her task wasn't completed. But turning back was a little unnatural. She could only go back to the pantry. "How was it?" the blonde air stewardess asked. The brown-haired air stewardess said with a red face, "So embarrassing. I was so nervous that I forgot to ask for an autograph." The blonde air stewardess giggled. "Are you serious? You didn't show your charm?" The S-shaped curve has always been successful in the past. The brown-haired air stewardess said somewhat discouraged, "I didn't neglect it at all." "Forget it, I'll go this time. Your thoughts are too complicated." The blonde air stewardess took the plate and ice water from the brown-haired air stewardess and laughed. She calmly walked up and handed the ice water to Poplar Fruit with both hands and said, "Mr. Leon, your ice water." "Thank you." Poplar Fruit was flipping through a book. He looked up and saw the blonde air stewardess. He was a little surprised. "Hey, why did you change people? Also, do you know me?" "Yes, Mr. Leon. You are my idol." The blonde air stewardess laughed. "My colleague gave me the opportunity to serve you." "Right, if we whisper like this, won't it affect Kiki?" the blonde air stewardess asked. "She really is a fan of mine. She even knows Kiki's name." Poplar Fruit laughed. "It doesn't matter. She's sleeping very soundly. Can I ask you to sign 2 autographs?" The blonde air stewardess took out 2 small notebooks and a pen and handed them over. "I'm sorry to disturb your reading." Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, "I'm not disturbing. But are you sure you want me to sign? I'm not a big star." "Who said so? You're famous. I watched your documentary and was so excited that I wanted to join the ranks of models." The blonde air stewardess laughed. You have to think about it carefully. Don't be impulsive because of me." Poplar Fruit said with a wry smile, "I'm just a guest model. My main job is a translator. The video is edited. It's not easy for a model to stand out." "I understand." The blonde air stewardess laughed. She looked at the notebook in Poplar Fruit's hand. Poplar Fruit shook his head and asked, "For Elena. This is for my colleague Desha." The blonde air stewardess said with longing eyes. "Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to." Chapter 780. Poplar Fruit wrote a few words of blessing on the little notebook, then passed it to the blonde stewardess Elena. Elena said with some admiration, "Your French is so beautiful, even better than mine." Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "I practiced for a while in the past. Thank you for your appreciation." Practicing calligraphy was a painful experience for Poplar Fruit. It was easy for him to learn how to read, listen, but to practice calligraphy he had to learn it stroke by stroke. Just French alone took Poplar Fruit more than a month to master. This was several times longer than what he had heard of when he first learned to read. Elena was not satisfied with just an autograph. and she even asked to take a photo with Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit satisfied all her requests, and Elena left the first-class cabin. Speaking of which, Poplar Fruit met a fan when he took the plane to Beijing the last time he went back to America. However, the Korean girl, Kim Shishan, was a fan of Kiki. Xiao Han swore that the name was randomly given by Xiao Han. However, when he looked it up online, there was really such a celebrity called Kim Shishan, and she was the one who acted in the legend. He was a little ignorant. Poplar Fruit recalled that experience, and he looked at Kiki, who was still asleep, proudly. He muttered to himself, "Hee hee, Kiki, Daddy didn't make a mistake this time, right?" At that moment, a head came over from his right. Her white hair was curly, similar to Poplar Fruit's curly hair that had not recovered yet. It was an old lady. Although her hair was white and her face was full of wrinkles, she was in good spirits. She wore a black headband and a striped shirt, looking very fashionable. When the old lady was young, she must have been a beauty. Although she was old now, she still looked like a beauty. "You're the model from China that they were talking about?" The grandma looked at Poplar Fruit with great interest and asked in French, "I've seen you on TV. Although you're great, I don't think you look like a model." Poplar Fruit saw a middle-aged woman sitting next to the grandma. He didn't know if she was her caretaker or family member. She also gave Poplar Fruit a friendly smile. "Grandma, what do you think I look like?" Poplar Fruit smiled. He wasn't annoyed. Instead, he found this old granny quite interesting. "Do you speak English?" The granny smiled charmingly and said, "If we speak in English, it will be more convenient for us to communicate." Poplar Fruit nodded and said in English, "Of course, how should I address you?" "Grandma can call me by my name, Leon." The granny gently waved her hand and smiled. "You can't call me Granny. You'll become old if you call me Granny. You can also call me by my name, Alice." "All right, Alice." Poplar Fruit coaxed her a bit like coaxing his own grandmother. Poplar Fruit's grandmother passed away a long time ago. However, in Poplar Fruit's childhood memory, she was still the best grandmother who loved him the most. "I actually think that you and I are the same type of person. We often come into contact with books when we create literature." Granny Alice's voice wasn't loud as she said, "Do you know why? Because you have the aura of a book." Poplar Fruit laughed and said, "Alice, you're so accurate. Many people also say that I have a scholarly aura. In fact, I don't do literary creation, but it's not too far from it. I do literary translation." "I heard everything you were talking about," said Granny Alice. Granny Alice said, "I don't think there is any boundary between translation and literary creation. The process of translation is also a second creation. Moreover, I know a lot of writers who have experience as translators before." Poplar Fruit asked with interest, "Really? How did they change their career?" "They don't need to change their career," Granny Alice said with a smile. "Don't you realize that as long as you can be a good literary translator, your own writing ability won't be bad?" Poplar Fruit thought about it and nodded. He felt that his writing was okay. At present, he knew 13 foreign languages. Except for Sanskrit, which was rarely used, he could write some small articles on his own in the other languages. Of course, Poplar Fruit still didn't have confidence. Otherwise, his articles wouldn't be hidden in an encrypted blog. Only Fong Beibei could see them. The journey was long. Poplar Fruit and Granny Alice were like-minded. The more they chatted, the happier they were. It was a good way to pass the time. Only then did he realize that the granny came from Ontario, Canada. She was in her early 80s this year. Next to her was her daughter, who was in her 50s this year. "But you look very healthy," Poplar Fruit praised. "This is the power of the mind," Granny Alice said with a smile. Granny Alice smiled. "I maintain a good state of life every day. I exercise, eat a vegetarian diet, and maintain a strong thirst for knowledge. Reading gives me unlimited energy." The two also talked about a lot of literary topics. Granny Alice was surprised by Poplar Fruit's reading ability. Poplar Fruit had read a lot of Canadian literary works. He could speak with assurance, as if there was no generation gap between the two of them. Poplar Fruit was also amazed by Granny Alice's profound knowledge. Granny Alice had a very complete set of Western literary concepts. Poplar Fruit heard from her a lot of classical literary ideas that couldn't be understood from books and papers. You must have been a university professor before, right? Poplar Fruit asked with admiration. Granny Alice smiled lightly and said, "Not a professor, but I used to be a writer-in-residence at Columbia University in England and the University of Queensland in Australia." This was similar to being a visiting professor. Poplar Fruit looked at Granny Alice with respect and asked, "Alice, can I ask the name of your work? I'd like to read it." "You've read it before." Granny Alice smiled slyly and said, "The escape that I asked you about just now was written by me." "Oh," Poplar Fruit exclaimed in surprise. He shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "Alice Munro. Alice, you really fooled me. I just said that I knew a lot about this book, but now I'm showing off in front of an expert." "It's okay, I don't care." Granny Alice smiled like a child. "In fact, you really did read my book seriously. I'm very happy." Poplar Fruit waved his hand and said with a smile, "Alice, I'm not trying to flatter you. You're a recognized short story master. Some people even think that you're the modern Chekhov. I really like your work." She took a book from her daughter, who was accompanying her, and said to Poplar Fruit with a smile, "I know that you've read most of my works, but I believe that you haven't read this one." Dearenders for life. Before Poplar Fruit took it, he asked happily, "I haven't read this book on Amazon, but I know that this is your last work. I finally believe that you're my fan." Granny Alice smiled humorously. "Yes, it's this book. It was published not long ago. I hope you like it." Granny Alice said with a smile, "I also hope that you can stick to your dream and become an excellent writer in the future. I believe in you." Thanks to Yoko for the tip. Chapter 781. Meeting Alice Munro on the plane could be said to be a surprise for Poplar Fruit. Granny Alice was indeed a master of short stories. Poplar Fruit only chatted with her for more than an hour, and he felt that he had benefited a lot. Of course, the biggest gain was that Poplar Fruit obtained Granny Alice's private contact information. With this, Poplar Fruit could consult Granny Alice through the internet in the future. Moreover, Poplar Fruit heard that Granny Alice's last novel hadn't sold the rights to the Chinese version. Poplar Fruit was a little tempted. He made an appointment with Granny Alice. After a period of time, when he returned to China, he would let his own publishing house contact her. Of course, business was business. Granny Alice wouldn't sell the rights to her novel so easily just because it was Poplar Fruit. At that time, it would depend on Zheng Yujie's negotiation skills. Poplar Fruit's idea was to wait until The Young School was published and had some results. Then he would have the confidence to negotiate with Granny Alice. However, plans always couldn't keep up with changes. Who could say for sure about the future? Granny Alice had to go to the United States to receive the award first. At the airport, Poplar Fruit separated from them. However, for the first time, Poplar Fruit chased after a celebrity. He took out his mobile phone and asked his daughter to help him take a photo with Granny Alice. Kiki just woke up. She was in a daze and kept rubbing her eyes. She still didn't know what was going on. However, Poplar Fruit also quickly changed planes without stopping. He directly flew to San Francisco. There, Kiki was participating in the mathematical modeling competition for American university students. I don't know if she finished the exam. Poplar Fruit muttered in his heart. The reason why he dared to be so anxious was because Fong Beibei's competition was about to end on this day. However, Poplar Fruit really didn't know the exact time. In order to give Fong Beibei a surprise, he had kept it a secret before, so he couldn't ask Fong Beibei for details. However, just as he got out of the San Francisco airport and got into a taxi, Poplar Fruit realized that when he turned on his phone, there were a lot of missed calls flooding in. After automatically filtering out the notifications from Song Jiwen and Ardil, Poplar Fruit saw Fong Beibei's phone number. Could it be that they're already out? Poplar Fruit's eyes widened. He knew that Fong Beibei's cell phone had been turned off for the past few days. It had been confiscated. Fong Beibei was able to use the phone to call him, which meant that her ban had been lifted. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit saw that Fong Beibei had called half an hour ago. He breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that Fong Beibei's competition hadn't ended for long. Although he was still sitting in the taxi, Poplar Fruit had already called back. However, the phone indicated that the other party was in the middle of a call. Well, Poplar Fruit took the opportunity to ask the driver to drive faster, and rushed to the hotel where Fong Bebe was staying. Later, when Sister Bebe calls, "Kiki, you can't make trouble, okay?" Poplar Fruit reminded the biggest black hole beside him. "Dad is talking to Sister Bebe, so Kiki must be quiet and not make a sound." "Why?" Kiki looked up at her father and asked in confusion. "Kiki also wants to talk to Sister Bebe." Poplar Fruit pinched Kiki's chubby little face and said, "Don't worry. Anyway, we'll see Sister Bebe later." "But Dad is talking to Sister Bebe." Chi-Chi pouted her little mouth and expressed her strong dissatisfaction with her father's behavior of allowing only a magistrate to set fire. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and explained, "Dad wants to lie to Sister Bebe that we're still in Bali, and then suddenly show up to give her a surprise." "What's a surprise?" Kiki tilted her head and thought for a while, then asked in confusion. A surprise is if after Kiki takes a bath today, Dad suddenly takes out a new Barbie doll and gives it to Kiki, and Kiki doesn't know at first, and then suddenly becomes very, very happy. Poplar Fruit thought for a while and explained. "Oh." Kiki looked at her father with expectant eyes and asked, "Is Dad going to buy a Barbie doll for Kiki?" She even clapped her little hands excitedly. "Yes. Bye. Poplar Fruit said heroically. "As long as Kiki cooperates with Dad, Dad will buy a Barbie doll for Kiki today." Kiki doesn't talk. Kiki is very obedient. Kiki happily raised her two little arms and covered her mouth with her palms, indicating that she would obediently keep her mouth shut. Coming. Poplar Fruit's phone vibrated. He took it out and sure enough, it was a call from Fong Bebe. Poplar Fruit raised a finger at Kiki. Kiki followed suit and raised a finger. Her mouth moved closer, and saliva sprayed out from her mouth. Her two big eyes were sparkling, and her smile was like a crescent moon. "Uncle." As soon as the call was connected, Fong Bebe's sweet voice came from the speaker. Poplar Fruit suddenly felt half of his body go limp. "Baby, your competition is over?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. Yes. Fong Bebe quickly responded. "I just got my phone and called you. But when I called you, your phone was turned off. Are you still working?" Fong Bebe's tone sounded a little wronged. In fact, she was so anxious to tell her boyfriend the good news, but was met with a cold notification tone. Anyone would be like this. "Yes," Poplar Fruit answered vaguely. "I just picked up my phone and saw that you called." "I also saw your phone," Fong Bebe explained, "but at that time, I was on the phone with my dad, so I couldn't pick it up." "It's okay. Baby, you've worked hard this week. How was the competition?" Poplar Fruit smiled and chatted with Fong Bebe casually. "Very good." Fong Bebe giggled and said, "Of course the results aren't out yet, but I feel very good. Many of the steps were solved by me alone. Senior said that our results this year will definitely be better than last year's, but I don't know how much better." "Doesn't that mean that we'll definitely win the prize?" Poplar Fruit was happy for his girlfriend. "You didn't waste a week being locked up." Fong Bebe reservedly smiled and said, "It's not definite. We still have to wait for 3 days for the results." "Wait for 3 days?" Poplar Fruit pretended to be disappointed and said, "Doesn't that mean that we have to stay in America for another half a week?" "Uncle, are you unhappy?" Fong Bebe could tell that Poplar Fruit was upset, so her tone became cautious. "Don't worry, I'll go back once I have the results. I've been out for so long. Actually, I want to go home too." "I'm not unhappy. America is so good, it's okay to stay for a few more days," Poplar Fruit purposely said in a weird tone. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 782. The more Poplar Fruit said this, the more certain Fong Bebe was of her judgment. Uncle was definitely unhappy. Although it was Poplar Fruit who chased after Fong Bebe before, it was Fong Bebe who was more nervous about Poplar Fruit later on. Saying this might make people think that Fong Bebe was too infatuated as a girl. But in fact, that was indeed the case. Feng Beibei was a typical Pisces girl who looked forward to a perfect relationship. Before falling in love, she would erect a thick layer of armor in front of herself. But after falling in love, she would worry about gains and losses, afraid of losing, and afraid of the changes in her feelings. Silence, silence. Feng Beibei suddenly said with a grievance and a sobbing voice. I don't want it to be like this. I really want to see you too. I don't want to stay abroad. I don't want to go shopping with senior sister. Poplar Fruit was suddenly shocked by Feng Beibei's violent mood swings. He began to realize that he seemed to have gone a little overboard. Sob sob. Poplar Fruit's reaction was still a little slow. Feng Beibei really sobbed. She choked and said, I called you as soon as I got the phone. What's wrong with that? Why are you so fierce to me? Poplar Fruit swore to God that he really didn't say anything fierce to Feng Beibei. At most, the sentence just now was a little strange. I can't go back early. It's not up to me to decide. Feng Beibei cried out. How about I don't compete? I'll go back by myself, okay? Her voice changed at the end. Her nose seemed to be a little blocked, and it sounded like her angry words were muffled. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and hurriedly tried to put out the fire. Baby, listen to me. I don't want to listen. I don't want to listen. Feng Beibei cried loudly and made a fuss. Baby, it's my fault. I shouldn't have been fierce to you. Poplar Fruit repeatedly apologized. He was a little depressed, feeling that he had done something bad out of kindness. Why did he come up with such a bad idea for no reason? Kiki was still using her fingers to cover her mouth. She looked at her father in confusion, not understanding what her father and sister Beibei were talking about. Why didn't they talk like normal? After a while, under Poplar Fruit's incessant comforting and blaming himself, Feng Beibei's cries. But she was still a little angry and said in a muffled voice, It's your fault. Why did you lose your temper for no reason? Yanghua smiled bitterly and said, Yes, it's my fault. Baby, I won't do it again. Although he really didn't lose his temper, he still had to accept the criticism. Feng Beibei sniffled and muttered, All right. Okay, I forgive you. Poplar Fruit imagined Feng Beibei's red and puffy eyes. She must still be pouting and drawing circles on the bedsheet to complain about the bad uncle. Poplar Fruit felt warm in his heart that she had forgiven him so quickly. Baby. Poplar Fruit called before hanging up. At this time the taxi slowly stopped. Feng Beibei stopped crying, but her nose was still blocked. She only answered in confusion, 3 more days. Can I come to America to visit you? Poplar Fruit took out a green banknote and handed it to the driver in front. The driver wanted to give him change, but Poplar Fruit waved his hand and smiled, indicating that he should keep it as a tip. Really? Feng Beibei exclaimed happily. She was still sobbing when she exclaimed, but that was because she hadn't recovered yet. Of course, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Baby, you miss me so much. How can I not come to visit you? You're the one who misses me. Feng Beibei said with a snort. Her voice became lighter. It seemed like her mood had turned from dark to sunny. She was as bright as the morning sky. When are you coming? Feng Beibei lowered her voice. She didn't want to appear too eager, but her words exposed her feelings. I'm going to pick you up. Poplar Fruit smiled. He carried Kiki out of the taxi. The taxi driver took the tip and helped him move the luggage out of the trunk. Poplar Fruit carried Kiki and put her on top of the luggage. He then pushed her 2 steps forward and looked at the hotel in front of him. He smiled and said, Sure, you can come out now. Ah. Feng Beibei was confused by Poplar Fruit's words. I mean, aren't you going to pick me up? Come out to the balcony and take a look. Poplar Fruit said with a laugh. Ah. Feng Beibei raised her voice. Uncle, you're here? There was a flurry of slippers on the phone, and then a window was pushed open. After a while, Feng Beibei asked doubtfully, No, Uncle, you're not lying to me, right? Moreover, we don't have a balcony. Poplar Fruit almost stumbled. He wiped off the big drop of cold sweat on his forehead. Damn, I made a mistake. The hotel in front of Poplar Fruit was right. It was indeed the hotel that Feng Beibei stayed in. But the rooms above the main entrance all had balconies. These were all luxury suites. They could see the park on the opposite side. However, Fong Beibei and the others came out with the school. How could they have the money to stay in a luxury suite? Fong Beibei's room must be on the other side. Poplar Fruit asked Fong Beibei to come out to the balcony. How could that be possible? Besides, it was impossible to find Poplar Fruit by opening the window. Unless Poplar Fruit changed to a position facing the hotel. Poplar Fruit said awkwardly. Really, I'm not lying to you. If you don't believe me, you can come out of the hotel through the main entrance. I'll be standing outside. If I lie to you, I'm gold. Fong Beibei heard that Poplar Fruit's tone didn't seem to be making her happy. She panicked again. What should I do? I'm not ready yet. My eyes were swollen from crying just now. Poplar Fruit found it funny. He said, "Oh, what are you thinking about? Come out and greet Uncle. No matter how swollen my baby's eyes are, even if they are swollen like goldfish eyes, she's still the most beautiful girl in my heart." Hearing her father's words, Kiki, who was next to her, raised her short leg that was on top of the suitcase and kicked her father in dissatisfaction. The little girl thought that the most beautiful girl in her father's heart should be Kiki. But she still didn't make a sound. For the new Barbie doll. Coming. With a patter, Fong Beibei's voice came over. She was a little flustered, but more than that, she was still in disbelief and joy. Listening to Fong Beibei's chaotic movements downstairs, Poplar Fruit couldn't help but worry. He quickly said, slow down, don't worry. I can't fly." "Ooh." Fong Beibei gasped and said into the microphone, "Uncle, I'm coming out." Poplar Fruit raised his head as if he felt something. A familiar figure rushed out of the hotel door. Begging for monthly votes. Begging for recommendation. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 783. Poplar Fruit could still hear the sound of the wind from the speaker even before the phone was put away. In fact, Yonghua didn't need to listen. She could see Fong Beibei's figure running quickly. Hey! Kiki seemed to have discovered a new world. She excitedly patted the suitcase and screamed, "Beibei Jiejie! Beibei Jiejie!" Because he had to take care of the little guy, Poplar Fruit did not run forward. He could only hold the suitcase and wave at Fong Beibei with a smile. Kiki was really excited. She sat on the suitcase and danced and screamed, afraid that Beibei Jiejie could not see her. Fong Beibei ran 5 or 6 meters in front of Poplar Fruit and slowed down a little. She gently gritted her teeth and raised her eyes to look at Poplar Fruit, as if to see if she was hallucinating. Poplar Fruit smiled. He opened his arms and said softly, "Baby." This call was like the command of a starting gun. Fong Beibei suddenly took off again. Like a gust of wind. She pounced on him with a huff. She jumped hard and hung her whole body weight on Poplar Fruit's neck. Ouch! Poplar Fruit was unprepared and almost took a step back from the impact. However, with the beautiful woman in his arms and her fragrance in his nose, Poplar Fruit could not help but be distracted. In fact, Fong Beibei's arm strength was not strong. She wanted to be like a koala and almost slipped. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit pulled out his left hand in time and firmly supported her little butt. "Uncle, you're so bad." Fong Beibei whispered with a nasal voice and angrily slapped Poplar Fruit's back. Liar, liar. At this time, how could Fong Beibei not understand that Poplar Fruit's tone on the phone just now was fake? And she was so nervous that she actually cried. Until now, her eyes were still a little red and swollen. She only felt that her ears were hot, and did not dare to look straight into Poplar Fruit's eyes. "I'm sorry, it's my fault." Although Poplar Fruit apologized, the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up slightly. Fong Beibei seemed to have a telepathic connection. She let go of the arm around Poplar Fruit's neck and supported herself on Poplar Fruit's shoulder. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit's left arm was strong enough. With just supporting, Fong Beibei was not in danger of falling. "You're still laughing." She saw Poplar Fruit's naughty smile and immediately shouted. Fong Beibei angrily stretched out both hands and pinched Poplar Fruit's cheeks. Poplar Fruit also cooperated with her. One moment his mouth was puffed up, and the next moment it was deflated under Fong Beibei's pressure. But the smile on his face did not diminish at all. "You're not allowed to laugh." Fong Beibei pouted. Her 2 index fingers gently pressed Poplar Fruit's mouth and forced them to bend down. It was as if Poplar Fruit was depressed. Fong Beibei could not help but laugh. The beauty's smile was like a flower. Poplar Fruit's heart was moved. They had not seen each other for almost a month. Poplar Fruit's heart was suddenly filled with tenderness. The love and longing in his eyes could not be suppressed at all. Fong Beibei also saw it. Her eyes met with Poplar Fruit's, and Poplar Fruit could also see the deep love in her eyes. Kiss, kiss. Poplar Fruit could not help but curl up the corners of his mouth and said softly. Fong Beibei was also moved. She held Poplar Fruit's face with both hands, lowered her head condescendingly, and kissed her soft lips on Poplar Fruit's raised lips. At this moment, time seemed to stop. Everything in the world that had nothing to do with beauty seemed to disappear. All that was left was the cherry blossom trees and the majestic snow mountains. All that was left was the rippling blue lake and the egrets flying on the water. All that was left was the melodious flute playing and the fluttering red sleeves dancing in the wind. How he wanted this moment to last forever. However, Fong Beibei did not give Poplar Fruit time to reflect. She was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water. Once she touched it, she pulled it back as if she was electrocuted. Her limpid eyes were filled with a sly smile. That won't do. Poplar Fruit protested. Kiss, kiss again. You wish. Fong Beibei blushed and said, No, there are so many people here. Besides, Kiki is still watching. With that, Fong Beibei hit Poplar Fruit's shoulder, indicating that she was still a little angry. Poplar Fruit turned his head to look at Kiki. Kiki was blinking her innocent big eyes, looking up at the two of them in confusion. She really could not understand. Why did Big Sister Beibei get picked up by Papa the moment she came? Why did the two of them not pay attention to Kiki after being lovey-dovey for so long? Kiki also wants a hug. Kiki saw that the two adults' attention was finally on her. She quickly stretched out her 2 small hands, pouted and said with dissatisfaction. Fong Beibei and Poplar Fruit looked at each other and smiled. Poplar Fruit also loosened his grip a little, letting Fong Beibei slide down from his body. Fong Beibei actually had the body of a typical girl in the Southern Kingdom. It was not a asterisk 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 asterisk, but it was still somewhat fleshy. When she was in close contact with Poplar Fruit could feel a trace of charm and gentleness. Although the two of them had not seen each other for so long and had a lot of things to say to each other, they had to settle down first and arrange a place for Poplar Fruit to stay. I heard that most of the hotel rooms were booked by our school, Nanyue University of Science and Technology, and Xiamen University. Fong Beibei held Poplar Fruit's hand with one hand and helped Poplar Fruit with the other hand. It had 4 wheels, so it was easy to push. Poplar Fruit carried Kiki and walked on the left. The two of them entered the hotel together and walked to the front desk. I'll do it. Poplar Fruit rubbed Fong Beibei's head. He knew that her spoken English was terrible, so she could not help him even if she wanted to. He smiled and said, There were not many rooms left. The business rooms were all booked. There were a few luxury suites and a super luxurious presidential suite left. Poplar Fruit did not want to stay too far away from Fong Beibei, so he decided to book it. Fortunately, the hotel here was not star-rated and the price was not as outrageous as Shangri-La. Even the luxury suites were only $200. Let's book one day at a time. We don't know if there are any changes to the itinerary. Fong Beibei suggested. Okay, let's book one day first. Poplar Fruit smiled. If your teacher allows, I want to take you to see Alan, the co-founder of Blizzard. Okay. Fong Beibei put her palm in Poplar Fruit's big hand and let it wrap around her. She felt warm. In fact, Fong Beibei's palm was not small, but it was very slender and suitable for playing the piano. However, it was a girl's hand after all. Compared to Poplar Fruit's big hand, it looked like a child's hand and an adult's hand. Brother Poplar Fruit? There was an exclamation. 2 boys came out of the elevator and pointed at Poplar Fruit with their mouths wide open. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 784. These 2 boys are now seniors. Fong Beibei has to call them senior brothers. However, compared to Poplar Fruit, this senior, they are still two seedlings. Because of the invitation of Professor Zhang, who led the team led by Fong Beibei, Poplar Fruit previously gave 2 English lessons to the students of Higashiyama University, who came for the competition. At that time he saw them. "Why are you so surprised?" Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "You guys are working so hard in the competition. Can't I come to visit you guys?" "No." The 2 boys said excitedly. "Senior brother, you're not the same as before." Poplar Fruit scratched his head and asked embarrassedly, "You guys know?" Poplar Fruit remembered that they finished the competition less than 2 hours ago. How could they be so well informed? "Yes." The 2 boys nodded fiercely. Their eyes lit up as they looked at Poplar Fruit and said, "Just now, when Teacher Sure was chatting with us, he talked about you. When we went online, wow, it's all about you. Senior brother, you're now a big star." "Senior brother, what are you talking about?" Fong Beibei was confused. She asked doubtfully, but her eyes still turned to Poplar Fruit. "Beibei, you don't know your boyfriend is now a big star." One of the boys said exaggeratedly. "The whole world is talking about him. They even said that he knows Beckham." "Senior brother, do you really know him? We want an autograph." Yes. The other boy said covetously. At this time, Poplar Fruit felt his hand being tightly held. He turned to look at his girlfriend. Fong Beibei was looking at him nervously. "I'll explain it to you later." Poplar Fruit patted Fong Beibei's hand and said with a smile. Poplar Fruit turned to look at the 2 boys and rolled his eyes speechlessly. "Don't listen to the nonsense on the internet. When did I become a superstar? I'm still me, an ordinary student of Higashiyama University. But I heard that your documentary has been released," a boy said unwillingly. "If you're not a celebrity, why would you release a documentary? Anyway, I'm not a celebrity, so stop making a fuss." Poplar Fruit smiled helplessly. "Go do what you need to do. Don't stay in the hotel. The outside world is so big, and it's time to go out and take a look. Let's go." At the end of the day, one of the boys still had some color. He pulled the other one and said with a smile, "Senior brother, you haven't seen Beibei for a long time. Let's give her some space." This was just a small episode on the way back to the room. Poplar Fruit smiled and shook his head. He held Fong Beibei's hand and took the elevator to the 5th floor with Fong Beibei. But until they entered the room, Fong Beibei was still a little silent. She held Poplar Fruit's hand tightly, as if she was worried that he would run away. Poplar Fruit knew that his girlfriend didn't feel safe. He put down Kiki, turned his head, and rubbed Fong Beibei's hair. Her bangs became a little messy. He smiled and said, "Why can't you figure it out again? Don't listen to their nonsense. I, Poplar Fruit, am standing in front of you alive?" Fong Beibei didn't blame Poplar Fruit for messing up her hair. She took a step forward, put her hands around Poplar Fruit's waist, and put her head on Poplar Fruit's chest. She pouted and said, "I want to hear your explanation." The scene was very serious, but Kiki, who had just run to check the room, ran back and hugged the legs of the 2 adults. She shouted, "Kiki wants a hug too." The atmosphere was suddenly disturbed. Poplar Fruit smiled and patted Fong Beibei's shoulder gently. He said with a smile, "Are you hungry? It's past 5 o'clock. Why don't we go eat first, and then we'll come back and talk to you slowly?" "No, I just want to hear it," Fong Beibei said coquettishly. "Oh." Kiki snorted discontentedly. "Papa has Beibei's sister, so he doesn't care about Kiki anymore." She kicked Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei's legs unhappily. Poplar Fruit was fine, but Fong Beibei was a little hurt. She was pestered by Kiki and had no choice but to let go of Poplar Fruit. She squatted down and rubbed her legs while coaxing Kiki. Poplar Fruit looked at them and smiled. He knew that with Kiki here, the 2 of them definitely couldn't have a good talk. So Poplar Fruit went to the phone and called the hotel to send dinner. During the meal, Kiki, the little girl, restlessly occupied the main seat. Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei were listening to her chatter. However, because they had to eat, the little girl's words were vague and not organized. Fong Beibei didn't understand. After the meal, Poplar Fruit walked over and hugged Fong Beibei's thin shoulders. He looked down at her eyes and said gently, "Baby, go back and take a bath first. Also, tell Shen Hong that I'll coax Kiki to sleep, and then I'll tell you slowly. Don't worry." Poplar Fruit patted her back gently and whispered in her ear, "Uncle will always be baby's uncle. He won't run away. Come and sleep tonight." Poplar Fruit turned around and said with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Fong Beibei gave him a dirty look, but still nodded obediently. After bathing the little girl, she wrapped a white bath towel around her and tossed on the bed. Fortunately, there was air conditioning in the room. Otherwise, she would probably sweat all over. Although it was autumn, the temperature in San Francisco was still quite high. "Don't make trouble." Poplar Fruit patted his daughter's butt and said with a smile, "Put on your clothes first." Suddenly, Kiki seemed to think of something. She rolled over and got up. She looked at her father and asked, "Papa, where's Kiki's Barbie doll?" The little girl was very concerned about her own things. She began to ask for the reward that her father asked Kiki to coax Sister Beibei in the afternoon. Poplar Fruit smiled and pointed to the messy hair of Kiki and said, "Isn't this it?" Kiki turned her head and then crawled around in a circle. She didn't see it. She looked at her father doubtfully. "Kiki is so cute. Isn't she Papa's Barbie doll?" Poplar Fruit said with a smile. It was only then that Chi-Chi realized that her father was fooling her. The little girl didn't listen. She shook off the bath towel and pounced on her father with bared fangs and brandished claws. Then, she was pressed down on the bed by her father with one hand. "Woo, Papa didn't keep his word." Kiki fluttered her hands and feet and pretended to cry. Poplar Fruit laughed. He patted Kiki's fleshless butt, took her little clothes and put them on her. He explained, "Papa didn't keep his word. It's just that I don't have time to go out and buy things today. How about tomorrow? Papa will buy you something tomorrow." However, Kiki didn't believe it. She made a fuss for a while. Poplar Fruit promised her that he wouldn't lie. Only then did she sit down with her mouth pouted, begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations, greater than over equal to asterisk. Chapter 785. After cuddling for a while, Poplar Fruit hugged Fong Beibei and sat on the sofa to chat. After listening to Poplar Fruit's explanation, Fong Beibei knew what kind of ups and downs Poplar Fruit had experienced. After all, what she had secretly checked on the internet just now was not complete enough. "I didn't even know you were working so hard." Fong Beibei stared at Poplar Fruit's side face, holding Poplar Fruit's arm and whispering, "Look at you, you've lost weight." Poplar Fruit turned his head, smiled and hooked Fong Beibei's nose, and said with a smile, "Don't worry, I'm now at the end of the suffering. Didn't you see your two senior brothers say that I'm a big star?" "Are you really popular?" Fong Beibei asked curiously. "But why don't I feel like you're a big star?" Poplar Fruit said unconvinced. "Who said that?" "Let me tell you, in Bali, there were many people who came to the hall to watch my performance. And this time, there were stewardesses on the plane who asked for my autograph." Before his voice died away, Fong Beibei pinched his waist. In fact, Poplar Fruit's skin was strong, so it didn't hurt at all, but he still cried out, "Ouch! You're a stewardess." Fong Beibei pouted and said discontentedly, "Do men become bad once they become famous?" "No. I promise not." Poplar Fruit raised his hand and swore, "I'm very loyal." Fong Beibei burst into laughter. She patted Poplar Fruit's arm and said with a smile, "Really, there are people who say that they're loyal." After a while, Poplar Fruit frankly said to Fong Beibei, "After this trip to Bali, I don't think I want to be a model anymore. I prefer to stay in school and be a scholar." "Why?" Fong Beibei asked curiously. "Don't you like a group of fans surrounding you?" "Oh right, there's also a group of girls in the school. Don't think that I don't know how big the disparity between male and female students in your school is. That's not the case." Poplar Fruit laughed. "I simply don't like models, nor do I like being a celebrity. You don't know this, but every time a model goes on the runway, she has to spend an hour doing her hair and makeup before going on stage. The feeling of putting powder on her face is super uncomfortable." Poplar Fruit explained, "I still like the way I look now. I don't need any makeup. I feel fresh and refreshed." Yeah. Fong Beibei nodded and said, I don't like makeup either. At most, I'll put on some moisturizer. Poplar Fruit touched Fong Beibei's face with a smile and said, You girls are different. It's understandable that you like to put on some makeup. Of course. Poplar Fruit quickly added, Baby, you look the best without makeup now. I've always liked it. Fong Beibei was satisfied. She leaned her head over and let Poplar Fruit touch her gently, like a kitten that had put away its claws. There's nothing good about being a celebrity. Poplar Fruit laughed. You don't know. Usually, those celebrities look glamorous, but in fact they can't say anything about their hardships. When they go in and out, they are chased by reporters and have no private life. Those paparazzi can't wait to dig out your every move and show it to the world. It was like that when I was in Bali. If Ardal hadn't protected me well, I would have been besieged by paparazzi. Poplar Fruit thought about it now and felt that those dark times were unbearable to look back on. Then you'd better not go. Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit worriedly and said, Let's stay in school. I also want to stay in school and teach after graduation. Let's be teachers together, okay? Okay. Poplar Fruit nodded and laughed. You can definitely do it. Your grades are so good. I'll talk to the teachers for you. You don't have to worry about it in the future. I don't need you to talk to me. Fong Beibei proudly raised her head and said, I'll study hard in mathematics. I can't be left behind by you too far. When the time comes, I want to stay in school with my own strength. Haha, good. I support you. Poplar Fruit laughed and put his arm around Fong Beibei's shoulder. Although he said that, Poplar Fruit secretly told himself that he had to work harder and be more ambitious. At least when the time came, he could shelter the person he liked and protect her all the way. Let me show you a video. Poplar Fruit ran to the school bag next to him, took out his computer, and opened the documentary he downloaded for Fong Beibei. BBC made a documentary for me. Poplar Fruit at this moment was like a little demon presenting a treasure. He laughed happily. Watch it first, I'll go take a shower. Hey, you hugged me without taking a shower. You've made me stink. Fong Beibei pouted and said. No, when I was bathing Kiki just now, I washed and changed her clothes indirectly. How can it stink? Poplar Fruit laughed and said, Watch the video carefully. I'll test your thoughts later. After taking a shower, Fong Beibei looked up at him with tears in her eyes. She hadn't finished watching the video yet. Hey. Poplar Fruit walked over puzzledly, held her face and asked, Why are you crying again? I didn't know it was so hard for you in Bali. Fong Beibei sniffled and said softly, I blamed you for not calling me. I didn't know you were so tired and worked so hard. Did you see them saying that I trained 18 hours a day? Poplar Fruit held Fong Beibei's face with heartache and laughed. Actually, it's not that bad. I was angry with those newspapers for a day or two, so I trained more. Don't worry, my body is fine. Moreover, isn't it all in the past? I won't be willful anymore. Fong Beibei solemnly promised. She finally understood how much Poplar Fruit cared about her. Even during those dark and difficult times in Bali, he still thought of her. Moreover, he silently endured everything, and only talked about happy things with her on the phone. How can you say that I'm willful? Poplar Fruit stroked Fong Beibei's delicate cheeks and said with a smile, You kept calling me, which means you love me. I'm very happy. In the back of the computer, Poplar Fruit appeared on the screen wearing wolf head underwear. While Fong Beibei reached out to close the lid of the computer, Poplar Fruit asked in surprise, You don't want to look at it anymore? My exciting elementary scholar walk has just begun. Don't tell me you think I'm not happy wearing this? Poplar Fruit asked. In fact, this is the only time you walked. There's no other way, this is the design of the clothes. No. Fong Beibei took the initiative to hug Poplar Fruit's arm and snuggled up to Poplar Fruit's side. She said, I don't need to know your glory, I just want to know your sweat and grievances, and that's enough. Glory would make people proud, but only the difficult process could make two people encourage each other, support each other, and walk hand in hand with beautiful memories. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk. Chapter 786. Uncle, I have something to tell you. Feng Beibei seemed to have finally mustered up her courage. She sat up straight and put one of her feet under her butt. But you can't be angry. Tell me, why would I be angry? Poplar Fruit laughed. He reached out and pulled Feng Beibei's calf out. Don't sit like this. Your blood won't circulate. Your whole foot will go numb. Actually, I only found out today. Feng Beibei raised her eyes and looked at Poplar Fruit timidly. She said hesitantly, I was on the phone with my dad. He scolded me. What happened? Poplar Fruit smiled and rubbed Feng Beibei's hair. Although it was not as smooth as Kiki's hair, long straight hair was more charming. Uncle, do you remember senior brother Wang Di from our team? Feng Beibei said carefully, last time when I took you to meet my teammates, you guys talked. When Feng Beibei mentioned Wang Di, Poplar Fruit knew what she was going to say. He looked at Feng Beibei, who was afraid that he would lose his temper. He found it funny. He took Feng Beibei's hand and pulled her into his arms. He patted her back and said, well, it's not a big deal. I'm not angry. Poplar Fruit finally understood why Feng Beibei's mood suddenly exploded in the afternoon. It turned out that she had been thinking about this matter. She was worried that Poplar Fruit would not answer her call because of this matter. Later, when she talked to Poplar Fruit on the phone, she was also nervous. His mood suddenly fell to the freezing point when Yanggua's eccentric attitude suddenly hit the freezing point. Feng Beibei felt that the sky was falling. She even thought that Poplar Fruit would start to quarrel with her, and then gradually become colder and colder, and finally go their separate ways. How could she not cry? How could Feng Beibei not feel wronged? Feng Beibei did not do anything wrong from the beginning to the end. She was also worried that Poplar Fruit would misunderstand, so she took the initiative to ask Poplar Fruit to accompany her to meet her teammates. This made Wang Di, who was insatiable, back off, and let Poplar Fruit unknowingly declare Feng Beibei's sovereignty. Fortunately, it was all a misunderstanding. Feng Beibei returned from the cold winter ice cave back to Poplar Fruit's warm embrace. Ah, you knew? Feng Beibei asked in surprise. Of course. It's just a rumor on Weibo. Yanggua laughed. Didn't I invite 2 students to Bali? And they told me. I really have nothing to do with Wang Di. Uncle, you can't think too much about it. Feng Beibei nervously grabbed Poplar Fruit's hand and said, how can I not trust you? Poplar Fruit laughed. You just said that you were scolded by Dad? Did he know? It's my dad. Feng Beibei corrected him. Yes, he found out, and then asked me about it. In the end, he even scolded me. What did he say about you? Poplar Fruit laughed and asked, could it be that Uncle forbade you from dating while you were studying? What should I do? Should I go and ask for forgiveness? Don't talk nonsense. Feng Beibei hit Poplar Fruit and said unhappily, my dad is actually very open-minded. You don't have to be afraid of him. He said that I have to be careful and not be cheated by others, especially young people like you. If I really fall in love, then I have to bring you home and let them see. Poplar Fruit seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. He waved his fist and laughed. Okay. After we return to China, I'll visit Uncle. Hey, don't. Feng Beibei was shocked and muttered. I'm not ready yet. I'm talking to you about something serious. Feng Beibei said with a straight face. I just want to clarify with you that the Weibo post is fake. I asked Wang Di, and he admitted that he took the photo, but he said that he didn't post such a Weibo post. Then he apologized. You can't leave a knot in your heart. Poplar Fruit looked at her nervous face, smiled, and comforted her. I already said that I didn't care. Actually, Poplar Fruit thought for a while, then told Feng Beibei honestly, when I saw the post, I knew that it was fake. I believed you. Moreover, I think it's very likely that someone is deliberately targeting us. Ah, Feng Beibei asked, puzzled. I also encountered a similar thing in Bali. Poplar Fruit explained. You saw the documentary, right? Wasn't the media in Bali talking about me in the beginning? At first, I thought that it was really Princess Charlotte who accidentally leaked the information. But in fact, when I think about it seriously, the information doesn't match what was said in the report. Most of the information listed in the report was fabricated, just like your Weibo post. Poplar Fruit said seriously, so according to my guess, it's very likely that the same person is behind these two things. Then why is this person targeting us? We didn't offend anyone, did we? Fong Beibei asked, puzzled. I don't know. Maybe it's an enemy I met in the past, or maybe it's deliberately slandering us so that we won't have a good time. Poplar Fruit shrugged and said. He didn't know that he was just casually guessing, but it was actually very close to the truth. How can they be so bad? Fong Beibei frowned and said. In her world, there was rarely such darkness. Poplar Fruit originally wanted to hide this doubt in his heart, but he felt that he couldn't let the person behind the scenes succeed, so he took the initiative to say it. That's why. Poplar Fruit held Fong Beibei's small hand in his and smiled. The more it's like this, the more we have to be firm in our own ideas. We have to have confidence in each other, so that we won't be torn apart by a rumor. Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit and nodded seriously. As they talked, the night gradually deepened. Even Poplar Fruit couldn't help but yawn in such an uncoordinated time difference. It was rare for him to be sleepy before 11 o'clock. Fong Beibei was also ready to sleep. She was different from Poplar Fruit. She usually went to bed early, not later than 11:30. Otherwise, her skin wouldn't be so smooth and beautiful. You go to sleep, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. As usual, you go to bed and I'll sleep on the sofa. Fong Beibei stood up obediently and naturally went to the bathroom to wash up. Originally, they had an agreement today. Moreover, she came here in her pajamas, so she didn't want to go back. At least Poplar Fruit was a good man that she could trust with ease. Poplar Fruit waited for her to come out before he went in. After brushing his teeth, he saw that Fong Beibei was still awake. Under the dim bedside lamp, she sat at the foot of the bed, facing the sofa. Go to sleep, go to sleep. It's late. Poplar Fruit stretched his waist. He thought that Fong Beibei didn't want to sleep so early and wanted to be lovey-dovey with him for a while. The sofa is too small. Fong Beibei raised her head and touched the bedsheet with her right hand. Her raised face looked a little red in the dark. And the bed is big enough. Why don't you sleep on the bed? Poplar Fruit's heart suddenly jumped. He couldn't believe his ears and asked in surprise. Ah, can I? Then what about you? I'll sleep on the bed too. Fong Beibei's voice was as soft as a mosquito, but in the dead of night, Poplar Fruit heard it clearly. But you can't do bad things. Fong Beibei emphasized in a firm tone. That was enough happiness. Really? Poplar Fruit was a little excited. He walked to the side of the bed, and then Fong Beibei climbed onto the bed first and sat down. She pointed to the other side and said, You sleep there. You can't come over. After a while he finally lay down on the bed. Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei, who was tightly wrapped in the quilt, each took one side of the bed. They were not far from the middle. The two lay on their sides and looked at each other. Although the bedside lamp was off, they could still see each other's bright eyes. Uncle. Yes. Are you very happy in your heart? Pfft. What do you mean by smiling? I'm happy. Have you been thinking about this for a long time? I know. When you asked me to live with you in school, you were thinking about this. Actually, it was one step deeper, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Of course. Even in my dreams. Fong Beibei muttered. Then you have to treat me well in the future. Of course. Fong Beibei laughed happily. After a while she said slowly, I'm going to sleep. Uncle, good night. Good night, baby. This chapter is a little long, 2K5. Xiaohan just wanted to clarify some things and the reason for the previous plot. The love between Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei is pure. Chapter 787. As usual, Yonggwa woke up very early. The sky was dark and gloomy, as if it was smeared with thick ink, making it hard to distinguish the layers. He got up carefully, stretched his legs in the empty space in the room, and did a few slow Tai Chi moves. This exercise had become a daily routine. If he didn't do it for a day, he would feel uncomfortable all over. However, even if it didn't affect Fong Beibei's slow Tai Chi, the amount of exercise was no less than ordinary kung fu. He was sweating all over, and had to take a shower. It was still very early, only a little over 4 o'clock. It seemed that the time difference still affected Poplar Fruit. He struggled for a while, but still went back to bed. It was such a rare opportunity to accompany his girlfriend. If he left Fong Beibei alone and went out for a walk, he would be worse than a beast. After an unknown amount of time, the sun shone through the balcony window and filled the room. Fong Beibei's long eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. She was facing away from the sun, but she saw Poplar Fruit's face full of sunshine. He was leaning on the pillow and looking at her with a smile. Morning. Poplar Fruit closed the book in his hand, put his head back on the bed, and looked at her eyes. Morning. Fong Beibei gently stretched, but her voice was a little hoarse. She always woke up like this in the morning. She covered her face, and suddenly remembered that she hadn't washed up yet. She must be very ugly. What are you shy about? Poplar Fruit laughed and said, I don't dislike you. Oh. Fong Beibei pounced on Poplar Fruit and started to play with him through the quilt. Although she just woke up, girls were very concerned about their appearance. When she heard Poplar Fruit's words, she knew what he meant. You don't look good in the morning. I don't dislike you. Wasn't that his unspoken words? Come on, drink a glass of water. My throat is so dry that it's hoarse. After they were done, Poplar Fruit took a glass of water from the bedside table and handed it to Fong Beibei. Well, cough cough. I have to brush my teeth before I can drink water. Fong Beibei pulled up the sheets and used her hand to tuck her scattered hair behind her back. She got out of bed and walked to the bathroom. After they finished packing, Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei went to talk to Professor Zhang. If it were any other student, Professor Zhang would definitely not let her leave the group so casually, but Fong Beibei had brought along Poplar Fruit to persuade her. Professor Zhang had communicated with Poplar Fruit before and knew that he was Chen Zongdai's student from the outer court. Through their communication, he also knew that Poplar Fruit was very mature and different from others. Poplar Fruit was still trustworthy. Remember, be careful when you go out. You have to come back the day after tomorrow, which is the 9th. Fong Beibei still has a high chance of winning the award. Don't miss the opportunity to receive the award. Professor Zhang reminded them and waved them away. Dragging their suitcases, Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei left the hotel hand in hand. They did not tell more people, mainly because Professor Zhang did not want to. He was worried that if everyone knew that Fong Beibei was going out for a few days, they would not be able to stay in San Francisco. Where are we going? Fong Beibei asked curiously. Irvine called Irwin in Chinese. If Los Angeles is compared to Yangcheng, then Irwin is similar to Xingcheng. Of course, it's much smaller, just a small city. But it's very developed. Poplar Fruit smiled. Blizzard and Alan are both in Irwin. It's rare for them to come to America. Let's go and meet them. Kiki was originally being held in her father's arms quietly, but after hearing the conversation between her father and Beibei's sister, she asked anxiously, But where's Kiki's Barbie doll? Papa didn't keep his word. Today, he was going to give Kiki a Barbie doll. Let's find Kiki a Barbie doll first, Fong Beibei said. As an adult, you can't break your promise in front of a child. Fong Beibei's words made Chi-Chi so happy that she didn't know how happy she was. She immediately abandoned her dearest father and reached out for Fong Beibei's hug. Poplar Fruit humbly accepted the criticism and began to look for a Barbie doll store with Fong Beibei and the others. If Fong Beibei was left alone in America's metropolis, she would definitely be dumbfounded. Fortunately, there was Poplar Fruit, a language genius who could speak, read, and write without difficulty. He inquired and searched, and finally took a taxi to a toy store. It was Poplar Fruit and Kiki's first time visiting a toy store abroad. As soon as they entered, Poplar Fruit was stunned by the dazzling array of toys. The toy store here was really like a fairy tale kingdom designed for children. Not to mention classic dolls such as Snow White and Mickey Mouse, there were also all kinds of interesting toys. If Sheldon came here, he would definitely be unable to control himself. Fong Beibei pointed at the circle of tracks and small trains on the ground, covered her mouth and laughed. She liked watching dramas, whether it was Korean or American dramas. Fong Beibei liked them all very much. Kiki found that her eyes were not enough. Here, there, and there were all her favorite toys. She looked greedily, and her little mouth could not close. Finally, She came to her senses and screamed excitedly. If it were not for Fong Beibei holding her, she would have pounced on them. However, even so, Poplar Fruit still looked at Kiki in fear. Although Kiki was small, her voice was very loud. In the past, when she cried, Poplar Fruit could not stand it. "I'm sorry. She might be too excited." Poplar Fruit apologized to the store manager in embarrassment. The store manager was an old man with a white beard. He had the typical figure of a fat American man. Perhaps if he wore a red leather jacket, he would be another Santa Claus. He smiled kindly and said, "It's okay. Children are all the same. No one is not excited when they come in." "We want to buy a Barbie doll," Poplar Fruit asked. The store manager was really enthusiastic. He took out boxes of exquisitely packaged Barbie dolls from the cupboard. Each doll was matched with a few small outfits that could be matched. He did not introduce them, but Poplar Fruit knew that they were all authentic. After all, they did not walk into a small shop in the corner of the street. "Which one does Kiki like?" Poplar Fruit asked. Kiki was really dazzled by the selection. She held one doll, then another. In the end, she held 2 dolls in her hands. She could not bear to put any of them down. "You have good taste." The store manager gave a thumbs up and smiled. "These 2 dolls are the most popular in our shop." Although she was praised, Kiki pouted and turned her head to look at her father. She did not say anything, but her meaning was obvious. She wanted to buy both. Poplar Fruit meant that Kiki could just pick one that she liked. Kiki turned to look at Fong Beibei. Fong Beibei was too soft-hearted. She could not stand Kiki's pitiful little eyes. She looked at Poplar Fruit again. In the end, under Kiki's joyful cheers, Poplar Fruit paid for the 2 Barbie dolls. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk. Chapter 788. Some were happy, while others were sad. In Beijing, after Zheng Yujie received Fong Min's call, she locked herself in her room. When she came out again, her eyes were red and swollen, and her hair was messy. She didn't look so haggard even after working overtime for more than 10 days. Zheng Yujie had been paying attention to Poplar Fruit's news, both domestically and overseas. When BBC released a documentary on Poplar Fruit, she was the first to watch it in the country. Not only that, she watched it many times and never got tired of it. Previously, the overseas media reported that Poplar Fruit admitted that he had a girlfriend. This made her feel bad for a long time, but she deceived herself and told herself that it was just a trick used by the media to fool people. Zheng Yujie was really deceiving herself. She already had an answer in her heart, and she even guessed who the girlfriend was. Poplar Fruit had told her before, but she didn't want to believe it. However, in the end, Fong Min still told her that it wasn't a media hype, and that Poplar Fruit really said so. Finally, Zheng Yujie got a piece of news from Fong Min. Poplar Fruit wasn't in Bali, nor did he return to China. "He went to America to look for my daughter's friend." Like a bolt from the blue, Zheng Yujie's thick armor that protected her was shattered. In front of others, Zheng Yujie still pretended to be calm. She told Fong Min in a domineering tone, "It's all an act. How could I not know that guy? He has a family to feed. If I don't like him, who else would like him? He just made up a girlfriend to protect me from being targeted by the media." Behind them, Zheng Yujie was hiding in her room. She covered herself with the quilt and cried until the sky turned dark. She was unable to control herself. It was like her dream was shattered. Zheng Yujie felt that her heart was broken. Really, after falling in love with Poplar Fruit, she felt that she had a hard time. She had to put down her dignity again and again. And then she felt like her heart was being cut by a knife again and again. Was he really going to give up? Zheng Yujie was confused. She cried until the sky darkened and the earth darkened, until her tears dried up. At last she lay on the bed and stared blankly at the ceiling. But her mind was empty, and she could not find a way out. He didn't work for the whole day and didn't go to work. Until Peng Yu called. In fact, Peng Yu did not know about Zheng Yujie's emotional changes. She called to urge Zheng Yujie to finish the resignation procedures of the marketing and planning talents they trained in Dongxin as soon as possible. Now their publishing house was officially listed. Although they had bought a bankrupt publishing house and got a lot of staff, they still needed a lot of talents. They could not find any suitable talents in such a short time. The best way was to poach people from Dongshin, who had a large staff, with a high salary. Zheng Yujie was almost done with her work. Pang Yu's call woke Zheng Yujie up from her confused and helpless state. Zheng Yujie was a strong-willed career woman since she was young. She walked out of the bedroom door and into the bathroom. She took a hot shower to relieve her physical fatigue and mental embarrassment. She finally understood. Give up? Why should I give up? Zheng Yujie knew that her love for Poplar Fruit was firm and deep, and she also knew that Poplar Fruit had feelings for her. This man, if he did not like her, he would not have lost himself in intimate contact with her again and again. At that time at the wedding banquet, Zheng Yujie kissed Poplar Fruit forcefully, and Poplar Fruit stuck out his tongue. Thinking of that scene, Zheng Yujie blushed a little, but more than that, she felt sweet and nostalgic. Poplar Fruit was definitely interested in her. It was just that this guy was more stubborn. Once he set his mind on that girl, it would be hard to turn back. But Zheng Yujie thought that even if that was the case, it would be fine. She could not give up. If she gave up, she would lose everything. And she had to continue being herself, just like how she proved her ability in front of her family, and proved that she was not a vassal of the family. Zheng Yujie wanted to prove herself to Poplar Fruit, to prove that she was a good match for Poplar Fruit. Who else would be more suitable for Poplar Fruit than me? Zheng Yujie pressed her palm on the frosted curtain wall, with water droplets flowing. Her eyes were firm. Poplar Fruit, you will understand. On the other side of Beijing, in a super luxurious villa, a man drove a blue supercar with a buzzing sound. He got out of the car, opened the door, and casually threw the key aside without looking at it. The nanny who had been waiting there for a long time hurried over, and squatted down to help him change his shoes. You've been eating well recently. The man's eyes lit up. He chuckled and reached out his hand to knead the nanny's perky butt. Then he patted it and said, Young master will give you a bonus later. Go buy some good-looking underwear. The nanny retreated to the side with a red face, but he laughed loudly and walked to the sofa to sit down. If Poplar Fruit or Zheng Yujie were here, they would definitely realize that this somewhat effeminate guy was Li Zichao, who had not appeared in public for a long time. Recently, he had used his connections to get a foreign certificate in advance. Then, under the arrangement of his family, he entered a government department to gain experience. Rather than gaining experience, it was better to say that he was there to play. He might not even go to work once a week. When others knew about his family background, they disdained him in their hearts, but flattered him with their mouths. Li Zichao lifted his legs and put them on the coffee table. He turned his head and said to the beautiful nanny with a wretched expression, Come, give the young master a massage. The nanny blushed and obediently walked over. After a while, several pieces of her clothes fell to the ground. After that, Li Zichao lit a cigarette. As he smoked, he called the man who had been arranged by Ba Li and asked, Hey Bai, how's the matter going? That's right. Everything that targeted Poplar Fruit was arranged by him. At that time, after the Zheng family broke off the engagement, Li Zichao was really aggrieved and went back to have a serious illness. He could not touch the Zheng family at present. Although he believed that there would be a day when he would take revenge, now was not the time. The only one he could touch was Poplar Fruit. Li Zichao hated Poplar Fruit to the bone, because of this man who ruined his plans. Not only because of this, but Li Zichao's emotions were also mixed with jealousy and disgust. Poplar Fruit was really too outstanding. Li Zichao, who had investigated Poplar Fruit, threw an ashtray. How could a guy from a farmer's background be more outstanding than him? Li Zichao, who saw Poplar Fruit as a thorn in his side, certainly would not let go of Poplar Fruit so easily. Therefore, he devised a lot of schemes to slowly torture Poplar Fruit until he collapsed. He knew that only by cutting him into pieces could he vent the hatred in his heart. However, his subordinate's answer made him confused. What? What do you mean you don't know? You don't know where he went? Go and check it out. If it really didn't work out, and that Bai guy didn't do anything, kill him for me. Li Zichao was so angry that he kicked the coffee table over. The nanny was so scared that she trembled. No, killing him is too easy for him. Doesn't he like that little girl? You know what we have. We can't let him have an easy time. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk. Chapter 789. When they arrived at Air Bay, the hospitable Alan's family ran to the airport to welcome Poplar Fruit. Although there was a language barrier, with Poplar Fruit's super simultaneous interpreter, Fong Beibei was still able to communicate with Alan's wife Linda. Alan had always been curious about Fong Beibei, the second original designer of the Hearthstone card game. Previously, Poplar Fruit had told him that Poplar Fruit had only designed the framework of the card game. The one who had used the complex calculations to enrich the game's data was actually Fong Beibei. When Alan bought the game from Poplar Fruit, other than some slight adjustments to the game's balance, there was almost no need for any major changes. With such a huge amount of calculations, even if it was given to the core team of Blizzard, it would take at least 10 days to half a month. Now that Alan had asked Fong Beibei a few questions through Poplar Fruit, he was even more shocked. He felt that Fong Beibei was simply a humanoid computer. Compared to Fong Beibei, Alan felt that the employees of Blizzard were inferior. If you are willing to work at Blizzard after graduation, we will provide you with the best salary. Alan wanted to poach her in front of Poplar Fruit. Unfortunately, Fong Beibei was not interested in his proposal at all. She liked mathematics, not designing games. During the 2 days in Air Bay, Poplar Fruit, Fong Beibei, and Kiki had a great time. As all the itinerary was arranged by Linda, a woman's mind was more meticulous than Alan's. On the first day, they drove around Air Bay together. Although the sun was still hot in the afternoon, Air Bay's green coverage was very high. The shade was like a cover, and the cool breeze was blowing. It was so quiet and comfortable that it was like a beautiful town away from the world. However, in reality, Air Bay was a small to medium-sized city with an area of nearly 200 square kilometers. It was just that the city had gone through meticulous planning when it was first built. The entire city appeared to be in good order. In terms of safety, Air Bay was ranked in the top 10 in the United States. The wide roads and exotic houses made Fong Beibei unable to stop her right hand from pressing the shutter. In the end, Poplar Fruit confiscated Fong Beibei's small card player. Only then could Fong Beibei use her eyes instead of the small LCD screen of the card player to enjoy the scenery. In the evening, they went to the beach to watch the sunset. The beach had the sun that California was proud of. Its sunset was like a glass of aged red wine. Just smelling it was intoxicating. The dinner in the evening was also sumptuous. Compared with the Western food in France, the Western food in the United States lacked a little style, but the taste was closer to the taste of Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei. Except for Kiki, who fell asleep after drinking some mushroom soup, Poplar Fruit, Fong Beibei, and Alan's family chatted until 10 o'clock before leaving the restaurant. The next day, they went to the largest amusement park in Air Bay. After all, Alan had 2 children in his family, and Poplar Fruit also had a child. Compared with those high-end places, the amusement park was more suitable for adults to bring their children to play. Alan's 2 little boys, one was 8 years old, and the other was 6 years old. They were at the most fun age. When they first met, they were still very shy. After coming to the amusement park, it seemed that their nature was completely released. They screamed, cheered, and jumped up and down. Their excitement also infected Chi-Chi, making the little guy put down the Barbie doll that she loved so much that she couldn't put it down and also integrated into the outdoor game. In the amusement park, there were many games that were suitable for children, but there were also many games that were suitable for adults to play, but not for children. For example, Poplar Fruit took Kiki to ride the Ferris wheel once. When they sat at the highest point, looking down from above, the house was like a small square, and the people were also big black spots. Kiki had been pressing on the window and screaming. She was not afraid, but she was so excited that she couldn't control herself. When they arrived at the roller coaster, not to mention Kiki, even Alan's second son was not allowed to go on it. He was really too young. The amusement park had strict rules, which was also for their safety. In the end, Alan, who was afraid of heights, volunteered to stay and take care of Kiki and his second son. Linda took her eldest son, and Poplar Fruit took Fong Beibei to ride the roller coaster together. Fong Beibei was riding the roller coaster for the first time. She held Poplar Fruit's hand and screamed all the time. In the end, her legs were so weak that she hugged Poplar Fruit and didn't dare to let go. Poplar Fruit thought that she was afraid, but later, he saw that she was still looking at the roller coaster with eagerness. Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and played with her again. It was really a shock and joy. There were some small games in the amusement park, like the BB gun game that was often seen in the Chinese park. Moreover, the Americans were much kinder than the bad dealers in the Chinese park. At least Poplar Fruit did not find that they had done anything to the barrel of the gun when he tried to shoot it twice. The ones who were most passionate about this game were Alan and his 2 sons. According to Alan, not only did they like to play computer and TV games, they also liked to play real-life paintball gun games in real life. However, when the 3 of them walked onto the shooting range with their chests puffed out, all 10 shots missed. The best result was his eldest son, who hit a doll's arm. However, it was completely useless. "Let me do it." Poplar Fruit smiled. He went forward and handed a $10 Hamilton to the person in charge, and took a BB gun with an M4 shell loaded with 10 bullets. Poplar Fruit tested the accuracy of the first shot. After all, the BB gun was different from a real rifle. The plastic bullets were more affected by air resistance, and a distance of 5 meters was enough for it to have a significant downward displacement. After another shot, Yonghua hit a doll's thigh. She didn't knock it down, but she did make it sway a little. "Okay, children, you can tell me. Which one do you want as today's gift?" Poplar Fruit smiled confidently. Although Alan was still skeptical of Poplar Fruit's ability, he felt that Poplar Fruit had more luck when he killed the assassin in one shot. The children were still happy, including Kiki. The 3 children happily chose the doll they wanted. Would Poplar Fruit disappoint them? Of course not. From the first 2 shots, Poplar Fruit understood the nature of the BB gun. His next shots were like guided missiles, and every one of them hit the doll. Perhaps it was because the dolls were heavier. Poplar Fruit could not hit them with one shot. However, the first shot caused them to move back to the edge of the wooden frame, and the second shot accurately hit their heads, causing them to fall. In the end, when there were only 2 bullets left, Poplar Fruit had already shot down all the dolls he gave to the children. He did not continue shooting, and instead he gave the BB gun to Fong Beibei to play with for a while. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk. Chapter 790. After playing all day yesterday, Fong Beibei and Kiki were still sleeping at 9 o'clock in the morning. Poplar Fruit got up early to chat with Alan. "Leon, how do you know so much about Western food?" Alan asked in surprise. He knew that Linda couldn't make such a sumptuous breakfast. Usually, other than eating wheat and milk, they would eat fried eggs and bread. It had been more than 10 years and it hadn't changed. On the table, there were handmade sandwiches. The bread was very thin, and the fragrant bacon was freshly fried. The triangular poached eggs were fried in a triangular shape. The tomato slices were cut into rings, and the fresh and tender lettuce were all very appetizing. Poplar Fruit was worried that the children might not want to eat the sandwiches, so he also made milk cheesecake, apple toast, and Kiki's favorite fruit salad. "Originally, I only knew how to make Chinese dishes." Poplar Fruit laughed. "However, after a month in Bali, I learned a thing or two from the chef in Ardal, especially the fruit salad, which looks very simple, but actually requires a lot of thought. I chose the fruits according to Kiki's taste. Bananas, kiwis, watermelons, and apples. I don't know if you like them. I think Linda should learn from you." Alan laughed. "I'm tired of eating bread every day." "Alan." Linda saw that Alan had exposed her shortcomings, so she slapped him shyly. However, after a while, the 2 of them hugged and kissed again. Seeing the 2 children eating their favorite breakfast calmly, as if they had turned a blind eye to their parents' behavior, Poplar Fruit shook his head and sighed in his heart. Foreigners are really open-minded about these things. They don't mind having their children around at all. Take Fong Beibei for example. If Kiki was around, she would at most hug Poplar Fruit. How could she dare to do something more daring? I'll go and wake them up. Poplar Fruit couldn't stand it anymore. He smiled and said. Back in the room, Poplar Fruit drew the curtains, bent down, and gently patted Fong Bei's butt. He said with a smile, "Baby, wake up. The sun is shining on your butt." In fact, it was enough to sleep until 9:30. As soon as Poplar Fruit drew the curtains and the sunlight shone in, Fong Bei had already woken up. She just stayed in bed until Poplar Fruit bent down. She lazily opened her eyes, raised her arms, and stretched out her body's neck. Because they were in someone else's house, Poplar Fruit smiled and pulled Fong Bei's waist to cover her smooth belly with her clothes. He pinched Fong Bei's nose, then kissed her forehead and said, "Get up quickly. It seems that you just received a text message on your phone. See if someone is looking for you." After that, Poplar Fruit got up to wake Kiki up. The little girl was also half asleep. Being held in her father's arms, she couldn't open her eyes and had to rub them hard. Looking back, Poplar Fruit saw Fong Bei's butt sticking out, like an earthworm lying on the bed and looking at her phone. She must have just struggled to take the phone from the bedside table. "Are you exposing your butt to me to be spanked?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. Fong Bei didn't respond, but Kiki, who was still in a daze, reacted. She subconsciously covered her little butt and begged with a crying voice, "Papa, don't hit Kiki." "I didn't hit you. Papa wasn't talking about you." Poplar Fruit didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Uncle. Fong Bei's voice trembled a little. She maintained that position and called out. "Well, what's the matter?" Poplar Fruit asked. Fong Bei suddenly turned around and almost fell on the bed. She didn't care so much. With an excited look, she kept waving at Poplar Fruit and shouted, come here and help me see. Did I win the award? Did I?" Hearing this, Poplar Fruit also became excited. He put Kiki on the side of the bed, then quickly climbed to Fong Bei's side and asked, "Where is it? You got the result so soon? Is it because of the message?" "They sent me an email, but I can't understand it," Fong Bei said with a little excitement. "But I heard from the senior brothers and sisters that as long as you receive the email, you can basically be sure that you've won the award. Don't worry, I'll translate it for you." Poplar Fruit pointed at the email message on the phone and read it. "Congratulations to Bei's side, Fong Bei, Shenhong, and Wang Di. Your team of 3 won the outstanding award." Yang Guo blabbered on and on until she finally got to the awards. He saw that there was no point in reading the rest, so he didn't continue. Poplar Fruit asked in confusion, "Outstanding award? What kind of award is the outstanding award?" Fong Bei was also confused. "What outstanding award? I've never heard of an outstanding award." "This is what it says here, outstanding winner." Poplar Fruit read. "Ah." Fong Bei couldn't believe her ears. She grabbed Poplar Fruit's hand and asked, "Really? This outstanding award is the special award. The highest award." However, Fong Bei didn't have the confidence to think that she would win such a big award. She asked in surprise, "Uncle, did you read it wrong? There are less than 20 teams in the special award." "Let me check." Poplar Fruit picked up his phone and opened the browser to search, completely ignoring his daughter who was at the foot of the bed. Kiki had already burrowed under the blanket, bulging like a little groundhog. "It's true," Poplar Fruit said to Fong Bei in surprise. "Baby, you won the special award." "Really?" Fong Bei covered her face. She was so excited that tears were about to fall. She cried and threw herself into Poplar Fruit's arms, sobbing. Poplar Fruit patted her back gently with a smile. He didn't say anything to comfort her. At this time, it was time to let Fong Bei cry. Poplar Fruit understood this feeling. In fact, Fong Bei said that Poplar Fruit had worked hard in Bali, but when did she have the time to relax? For the whole summer vacation, Fong Bei had been training with the team. While the others were on vacation, she still couldn't be idle. It was the same after school started. This tense pace of preparation continued until the eve of the competition. She had suffered a lot for this competition. Poplar Fruit actually saw it in his heart. At this time, Alan and his wife heard the commotion and came over. Poplar Fruit smiled and said to them, "It's okay, I'm happy." She won the highest award in the university mathematical modeling competition. I knew she could do it. Alan gave a thumbs up and smiled. Leon, sometimes, we have to admit that there are really geniuses in this world. Poplar Fruit smiled and nodded. He lifted the blanket and fished out Kiki, who was sleeping under it. This little girl is not afraid of being bored. Looking for monthly votes, looking for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 791. Alan's family still wanted to hold a celebration for Fong Beibei. However, Poplar Fruit and the rest had originally planned to go back today. Now that there was news of the award, Fong Beibei could not hold back her joy, so Poplar Fruit rejected Alan. After breakfast, Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei excitedly boarded the plane back to San Francisco. Speaking of which, Poplar Fruit finally understood that flying in the United States was still very cheap. It was not the peak season recently, so these kinds of short-distance flights were discounted. Poplar Fruit and the rest were only $60 per person, so it was much cheaper than expensive taxis. More importantly, it was fast. If they took a bus or a taxi, it would probably take more than 7 hours to go from Irwin to San Francisco, but the plane returned in less than an hour. Along the way, Fong Beibei was so excited that she could not sit still. She took out her phone for a while, then put it back again. She wanted to share her joy with her parents, but she was worried that something would go wrong, and she would be happy for nothing. Poplar Fruit saw her fidgeting on the plane, so he found out after asking her, "Why don't you call Professor Zhang and ask him? He is the leader, so he knows this the best." Poplar Fruit laughed. The reason why he asked Professor Zhang was because the other team members' phones did not have global connectivity. Usually, when they called home, they would need to borrow their teachers' phones. Then most of them directly contacted their families through online video. Unlike Fong Beibei, Poplar Fruit charged a few $1,000 in her phone, so she could call as much as she wanted. "I don't have Professor Zhang's phone number." Fong Beibei blinked and said. Poplar Fruit found out that Professor Zhang had given them his phone number when he held a meeting with the team leaders. However, Fong Beibei's team leader, Wang Di, was a little careless and did not tell them when he came back. Perhaps he felt that it was useless. Looking at each other, Poplar Fruit waved his hand and said, "If you don't, why would I? Why don't I call back and ask my teacher?" Poplar Fruit took out his phone and asked, "Or, I can call the hotel and ask them to transfer you to Professor Zhang. I still remember the hotel's phone number." "No need." Fong Beibei laughed. "There's no need to make a big fuss. Anyway, we'll be back at the hotel in a while. Why don't we just ask Professor Zhang directly?" Poplar Fruit pinched Fong Beibei's nose intimately and smiled. "I'm just worried that you'll be anxious. Actually, I don't think that email is wrong. How could someone who wants to prank you be able to forge such a high-quality notice? You should know that your boyfriend's eyes are not to be trifled with." Actually, Fong Beibei had no confidence in herself. She felt that she had won the grand prize in her first competition. This was too dreamy to be real. However, hearing Poplar Fruit's dry humor, Fong Beibei still felt very happy. Fong Beibei giggled. She hugged Poplar Fruit's arm tightly and found a comfortable position to lean her head on. Poplar Fruit's embrace was already occupied by Kiki. The little girl was hugging her Barbie doll and fantasizing about something. Of course, everything was developing in a good direction. When they returned to the hotel, Poplar Fruit and the others saw that the Higashiyama University's teachers and students were all jubilant. Everyone had gathered in the restaurant on the second floor and were excitedly talking about the excellent results that Higashiyama University had obtained this time. It was really good. This time, all 8 teams from Higashiyama University won awards. 1 special prize, 3 first prize, 2 second prize, 1 third prize, and 1 excellence award. The list of winners was so luxurious that it even set the best record for a domestic university. "We really won the award." Shen Hong teared up as she held Fong Beibei's hand and excitedly confirmed with her. Wang Di's eyes were also red. Both of them were in their 4th year this year. It could be said that this was the last modeling competition they had participated in. And in their last time, they actually held the highest honor in this competition. How could they not cry with joy? Especially Wang Di, he really proved himself this time. In the past, there were people who said that he was riding on the coattails of two powerful seniors. However, this year, no one could erase his contribution. This was because in this team, the little demoness Fang Beibei was participating in the competition for the first time this year. Shen Hong was also participating for the first time. Furthermore, his strength was below average among everyone. He was the oldest and had the best results. Students. Professor Zhang was also very happy. In the past he rarely drank, but just now he drank 2 glasses of beer. He even picked up his glass and stood up unsteadily. He smiled and said, "I know that you are all very happy because we obtained very, very good results. However, I believe that everyone understands that this year, we were able to obtain such a good result unexpectedly. It can't be done without the help of one person. Without him taking the time to organize the secret books, without him taking time out of his busy schedule to give us a thesis writing tutorial, we wouldn't be able to achieve today's glory," Professor Zhang said very passionately. He even waved his hand and said, "Today he is also here." Poplar Fruit was just picking up some food for Kiki. When he saw everyone's eyes focused on him, he blushed and waved his hand. However, Professor Zhang did not intend to let him go. He smiled and said, "So today let's all toast to him, okay?" Suddenly, a large number of people stood up. Even Fang Beibei had a smile in her eyes. She picked up a drink and stood up. Poplar Fruit naturally could not sit still. Although it was a little awkward to stand up with Kiki in his arms, he still dragged his chair and stood up. Chi-Chi's hand trembled after being tossed around by him, and the pumpkin pie she had just grabbed fell into the bowl with a plop. Kiki quickly reached out to grab it, but she was suddenly carried up by her father. Her small hands and feet fluttered, and she could not reach it no matter how hard she tried. Poplar Fruit picked up his teacup. Before he could say anything, more than 20 teachers and students bowed to him in unison and said, "Senior Poplar Fruit, thank you." "Don't be like that," Poplar Fruit said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "It's just a small matter. If you want to say thank you, I have to thank you for taking care of Beibei during this period." "Haha, Poplar Fruit, you don't have to be so humble." Professor Zhang smiled and said, "Teacher Shi and I have discussed it. The fact that we can get such good results has nothing to do with our overall strength. It's mainly because of you. It's you who narrowed the gap between us and the American students in terms of language. That's why we have a fair chance to compete with them. Senior, just say yes." A bold girl laughed and said, "Beibei is part of our Higashiyama University's team. You are now our son-in-law. In the future, you have to support us more." Everyone laughed. Fang Beibei covered her face. She was so shy that she did not dare to raise her eyes. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk. Chapter 792. The award ceremony was held on the afternoon of the next day. With Professor Zhang's help, Poplar Fruit hung a sign with the logo of a leading teacher, and snuck into the hotel where the award ceremony was held. Throughout the entire award ceremony, everyone from Higashiyama University was glowing and had their chests puffed out. That was because Higashiyama University was practically the darling of the entire venue. The name of the university and the country was mentioned repeatedly. The organizers even specially introduced Higashiyama University and praised Higashiyama University for its brilliant results this year. Although Poplar Fruit did not win the award himself, Higashiyama University received a lot of attention and praise. Poplar Fruit also felt honored. He stood in the crowd of Higashiyama University and gave Kiki a high five. The foreigners did not think much of it. In their opinion, the Chinese students had always been amazing in mathematics. If it were not for the language barrier, there would be more Chinese teams winning the award every year. On the contrary, several universities in the country were surprised. After all, Higashiyama University's strength was ranked first in Guangdong, but it was not enough when compared to the whole country. Several universities in Beijing, Shanghai, and even Jiangnan had suppressed it to the edge of the top 10 in the country. It was the same for mathematics. As a comprehensive university, Higashiyama University's mathematics strength was only second to none in the whole country. Its position in Guangdong was still somewhat precarious. Otherwise, they would not have been so eager to give Fang Beibei, who had failed to make it to the national team, an early admission slot. Looking at the envious and jealous gazes of several famous universities next to him, Poplar Fruit sighed in his heart. In the end, they are still not strong enough. If Higashiyama University was stronger, they would take it for granted and not think that it was luck. In fact, Poplar Fruit did not know that some narrow-minded people were secretly spreading rumors that Higashiyama University had stolen the questions and prepared in advance. Otherwise, it was impossible for everyone to win the award. However, this rumor was only spread among a few people who didn't like Higashiyama University. Most of them weren't fools. They understood that if the organizers had really leaked the questions to Higashiyama University, then Higashiyama University wouldn't have such an uneven distribution of prizes. Higashiyama University should have gotten all the special prizes. Poplar Fruit had a myriad of thoughts. When he came back to his senses and looked at the rostrum, some time had passed. It was finally time for the grand prize to be presented. Previously, the list of winners had already been announced, and the winning emails had already been sent out. There were no surprises in this award ceremony. The only thing that was present was the excited expressions of the winning teams. In the crowd, under the spotlight, Poplar Fruit only had eyes for the girl in his dreams. She was also very beautiful today. Fang Beibei had only brought jeans because she had not expected to win the grand prize. Only the grand prize would be presented to all members on stage. The rest of the awards would be presented to the captains. Poplar Fruit had accompanied Fang Beibei to shop for the whole afternoon yesterday, just to buy her a fitting formal suit. Fang Beibei, who usually wore jeans and a t-shirt, also looked very good. Her youthful vitality was irresistible. After changing into a professional suit, she suddenly became quiet. Standing gracefully on the rostrum, she seemed a little reserved. Her hair was tied up in a ponytail, and she looked more capable. However, there was still a bit of a naive expression on her face, just like an office lady who had just joined the company. Poplar Fruit wanted to hold her in his arms and protect her. Originally, he wanted to take a photo of Fang Beibei. However, Poplar Fruit did not want to just look at her through the small LCD screen. He held Fang Beibei's card camera flat and pointed the camera steadily at her. He only pressed the shutter based on his feelings. Fang Beibei nervously received her medal and certificate from the chairman of the awards ceremony. Then, she stuttered and recited the thank you speech that Poplar Fruit had prepared for her yesterday. Although it was only 2 sentences, Yonghua could see her nervous and excited appearance. Yonghua couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile on the corner of her mouth. Stupid girl. Poplar Fruit muttered in his heart. I have to teach you how to speak English when we get back. Otherwise, when you win the Fields Medal in the future, you won't even be able to recite your thank you speech while standing on the rostrum. After awarding the awards to Fang Beibei's team, the chairman of the awards ceremony finally moved his tall body away. Poplar Fruit saw Fang Beibei holding the medal and looking at it again and again, as if she was looking at a rare treasure. The light shone on Fang Beibei's face. Seeing her cute expression, Poplar Fruit suddenly felt inexplicably moved. This is my glory moment. Poplar Fruit's heart was filled with emotion. Ever since he met Fang Beibei, as he gradually got to know her better, Poplar Fruit knew that Fang Beibei would definitely shine brightly in the future. Just like himself a few days ago, standing on a world-class stage, looking down on the world, the return of the king. However, he did not expect this glory moment to come so quickly. She was only 19 years old. Poplar Fruit suddenly felt that Fang Beibei was about to catch up with his progress. He began to feel a little pressured. Previously in Bali, although Poplar Fruit said that he did not care, in reality, he had become a little complacent because of the excessive praise and worship. The subtitles that he had secretly translated were a typical example. He could not let Fang Beibei surpass him, right? Don't forget, Poplar Fruit, you are a genius with a photographic memory. Poplar Fruit muttered to himself in his heart. God has given you a talent that is hard to come by in 100 years. If you squander it, will you still have the face to see your baby? Alright. Let's work hard together and witness each other's miracles. Poplar Fruit thought excitedly. He looked at Fong Beibei with shining eyes. Fong Beibei raised her head as if they had a tacit understanding. She picked up the medal and smiled sweetly at Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit hurriedly picked up the camera in a hurry, adjusted the focus, and took a picture of Fong Beibei's beautiful appearance. After the award ceremony, the group photo was taken and the applause was thunderous. Poplar Fruit and Kiki also clapped hard. However, Kiki still did not understand the logic of this. Papa, why do we have to clap? Why did Sister Beibei go up? What is an award? What is mathematics? In the afternoon in this award ceremony hall, Kiki once again became a million questions. Poplar Fruit was busy explaining to Kiki. In the end, he did not even know what the chairman said. Let me see, let me see. After coming down, Fong Beibei intimately hung the medal on Kiki's neck. Then she took the camera in Poplar Fruit's hand and looked at it excitedly. Oh! Fong Beibei said discontentedly. It's not good. Look, some of the photos are covered by others. It's good. Poplar Fruit smiled and turned to the last photo. Hee, only this one is good. Fong Beibei said with a smile, holding Poplar Fruit's arm. I'm going to send it to my mom. You have to tell her that I took it. Poplar Fruit got close to Fong Beibei's ear and said with a smile. I like it too. The stupid girl in it is so beautiful. You're the stupid girl. Fong Beibei grabbed Poplar Fruit's ear and said with a red face. Stupid girl, you like it? Of course I like it. Poplar Fruit lowered his head and secretly kissed Fong Beibei, who was blushing, and said with a smile. I'm going to put this photo in my mobile phone as a wallpaper. Recently, the new benefits of Genesis have caused a lot of uproar. Low-level writers like Xiao Han have also been greatly affected, and their attendance has been reduced. It can't be helped. Most of Xiao Han's monthly remuneration comes from his attendance, and the subscription results are terrible. However, he still couldn't reduce the number of updates for the sake of full attendance. 5K full attendance in the past, 4K full attendance now. At the very least, when Little Han didn't have to work so hard in real life, he would still maintain a steady stream of 3 to 6 updates a day. Don't expect an explosion. With Xiao Han's hand speed, it's not easy for him to maintain a stable rate. Although Xiao Han hasn't become a god, he still has the heart to work hard and will continue to work hard. I hope that the readers who like Xiao Han's books will continue to support him. If you have time, you can vote for Xiao Han more. There are no recommendations on the website, so I can only hope that you can help Xiao Han to get on the list. Bow, thank you, and leave to write. Chapter 793. The news of Higashiyama University's 8 teams' victory spread overseas. While Poplar Fruit and the others were packing their luggage and preparing to return to China, the university could not help but post the news on their official website. The front page even had a picture of Fong Beibei's team, receiving the highest award in the competition. Needless to say, it must have been Professor Zhang who posted it overnight. At first, the news was not eye-catching. It was only circulated among the teachers at Higashiyama University. Then, a sharp-eyed student assistant discovered that the beautiful girl in the picture was the one who had been the talk of the town on Weibo some time ago. The student assistant excitedly posted his discovery on the internet. It was like a trigger that ignited a barrel of gunpowder. The news instantly spread among the university's students. A lot of people said with envy, jealousy, and hatred, a straight-A student is indeed a straight-A student. It's not tiring for a girl and a boy to win an award together. After seeing this picture, all the single people have already suffered 1,000 points of damage. If it were only students, the news would not have spread so quickly. In a corner where no one could see, someone was working hard to add fuel to the fire, just like Sister Milk Tea. Instantly, the internet was abuzz with rumors about Fong Beibei and Wang Di. Many of Fong Beibei's current and past photos were dug up. Some busybodies even found a picture of Fong Beibei joining the national training team that was published 2 years ago by the Yangqing Evening News. Some people passed by, some praised, some were touched, some gave their blessings, some made sarcastic remarks, and some even cursed viciously. The rumors on the internet were rampant. The next day, a local newspaper in Yangcheng republished the news from the internet. Of course, the newspapers at this time were more rigorous. They mainly reported on Higashiyama University's brilliant results and casually mentioned the straight-A student couple. Unknowingly, they confirmed the rumor once again. Poplar Fruit and the others did not know about this because they were still flying 10,000 meters in the air when the news spread like wildfire on the internet. After returning, Professor Zhang and the others kept a low profile. When they returned to school, they let the students go back to their dormitories to rest. Including Fang Beibei, the students who won the award were still excited. Many of them were chatting in low voices on the plane. They didn't rest or sleep during the entire journey, but when they returned to Yangcheng, they were yawning in broad daylight. Fang Beibei was also very sleepy. Other than being dragged out for dinner by Poplar Fruit, she slept for more than 10 hours. It was only the next day that she woke up energetically. She had to go home. The school had given the students who had returned with honors half a week off, so that they could go home and share their happiness with their families. Poplar Fruit also had to go back to school to report to his teacher. He had been gone for a month. Chen Zongdai was almost scared out of his wits. Fortunately, this time he had Fang Beibei's special prize to protect him. Poplar Fruit had put in a lot of effort in Higashiyama University's trip to America. The old man might happily let him go because of the glory. However, he had to send Fang Beibei back first. Since he had a car, Poplar Fruit did not want his girlfriend to squeeze into the subway and bus. Now he just had to wait for Song Jiwen to drive his car back. Speaking of which, Song Jiwen was also taking care of Goldie. He wondered if it had become fat again. Last time, when Poplar Fruit brought it back, it was still as agile as before even after a month of running. When he heard the doorbell ring, Poplar Fruit thought that Song Jiwen had come. He was wondering why this guy would come in person. In the end, when he opened the door, Poplar Fruit saw Wang Di standing at the door with red eyes. There were several possibilities for red eyes. It could be that he did not sleep well. It could be that his heart was filled with hatred. It could also be that bacteria got into his eyes and he had red eyes. Of course, Wang Di was the first possibility. Wang Di, what's wrong with you? Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. Were you too excited to sleep yesterday? Wang Di shook his head. He hesitated for a moment and said, Senior, I'm sorry. What are you sorry for? Fang Beibei also came out from behind. She was carrying a suitcase filled with gifts for her family. Of course, some of them were chosen by Poplar Fruit. Mosquito is not here yet. Wang Di is here, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Put down the suitcase first. It's heavy. I'll carry it later. Wang Di was silent, but he still said, I'm sorry Fang Beibei Senior, it's my fault. I shouldn't have posted that Weibo. But Senior, the original text of my Weibo is not like that. Let me show you. Wang Di hurriedly took out his mobile phone to prove himself. After returning to the dormitory yesterday, and hearing the heckling of his roommates, Wang Di knew that such a big thing had happened on the internet. After understanding the ins and outs of the matter, he was so anxious that he couldn't sleep all night. Before, Wang Di had been secretly jealous of Poplar Fruit. But now, after winning the award and hearing about Poplar Fruit's fame in Bali, Wang Di only had respect and awe for Poplar Fruit. As a matter of fact, he came early in the morning to ask for forgiveness. Poplar Fruit knew what he wanted to say. He smiled, pressed Wang Di's hand, and comforted him. Wang Di, listen to me. I don't mean to blame you. Fang Beibei also comforted him. Yes, in fact, we all know that. We also know that someone is maliciously hyping up. Don't take it to heart. Poplar Fruit also patted Wang Di's shoulder to comfort him and said with a smile, don't always be influenced by the public opinion on the internet. People have to live in reality. Look at you, how red are your eyes? Go back and rest. The reaction of Poplar Fruit and Fang Beibei was beyond Wang Di's expectations. Wang Di was worried all night yesterday. He was afraid that Poplar Fruit would hold a grudge against him. He didn't expect that Poplar Fruit didn't care about it at all. But, Senior Wang Di, you have to stop posting pictures of other girls in the future. It's easy to misunderstand. Fang Beibei couldn't help but say to him. Fang Beibei was actually a little uncomfortable about this matter. I know. I will pay attention to it in the future, Wang Di said firmly. It's not a big deal. Let bygones be bygones, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Do you want to come in and drink some soy milk? I just made it this morning. Wang Di shook his head like a rattledrum and said, No, I won't disturb you. I'm really sorry. Wang Di apologized again and said goodbye to Poplar Fruit and the others. What Poplar Fruit didn't know was that Wang Di was touched by Poplar Fruit and the others' friendly attitude. On the way back, Wang Di secretly made up his mind. I must use practical actions to help Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei clear up this rumor. If Poplar Fruit and Fong Beibei knew about it, they would definitely stop him, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Sometimes an unintentional willow will turn into a shade. And it's not uncommon to see good intentions doing bad things. That's a story for later. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 794. Sending his girlfriend home made him look like a thief. Poplar Fruit drove the car to a small alley one intersection away from Fong Beibei's house, before letting her get out. Fong Beibei was still on guard. She turned to the bus stop and then went home. Poplar Fruit watched Fong Beibei go upstairs before going home. If someone passed by Poplar Fruit's Land Rover during this process, they would definitely see that the windows were open. Poplar Fruit was sitting in the front and looking at them. There were also two heads sticking out from the back. One was the curious Kiki, and the other was Goldie, who liked to join in the fun. Poplar Fruit didn't guess wrong. It really did grow fatter this month. When Goldie got out of the car with its ears drooping and tail wagging, Poplar Fruit didn't give it a good look. However, it had Kiki and Fong Beibei to dote on it, so it didn't matter if Poplar Fruit didn't give it a good look. Other than Song Jiwen and Goldie, Poplar Fruit understood his teacher's temper very well. Chen Zongdai not only didn't criticize him this time, he didn't even mention that Poplar Fruit went out for a stroll the whole day. He was gratified to express that Poplar Fruit had made him proud. This morning, the deans and directors of the medical, chemistry, biology, as well as several research institutes under the school's name, intentionally or unintentionally, strolled to his territory and praised him for teaching a good student. Professor Zhang's success gave a good inspiration to the other schools that were also facing the world. If they wanted to do well, the outer court had to hold on tight. Chen Zongdai knew what they were thinking. They wanted the outer court to help them translate their theses or publish a few secret books for the competition. However, there was only one freakish Poplar Fruit. Chen Zongdai was unmoved, or rather, he was waiting for the best offer. The old man felt that he was able to stand up straight again. Furthermore, he began to think about how to bring more benefits to the academy. Haven't you been translating literary works for publishers? Chen Zongdai said. You should summarize yourself more often and see if you can find some novel translation ideas. Of course, for a topic as big as your translatory theory, we can just focus on one. What I mean is that you have to sum up your experience. Next semester, I plan to let you start an elective course for the third-year students. Poplar Fruit nodded seriously. Just as he was about to continue listening to the teacher's guidance, he was kicked out by Chen Zongdai. Chen Zongdai was actually very busy with work. He still had to attend the school's organization meeting in the afternoon. Back home, Kiki finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She ran to her father and said, Papa, Kiki wants a cell phone. Goldie, who was following behind, trotted over. It circled around Poplar Fruit's slippers, as if it wanted to make things difficult for them. Stop it. Poplar Fruit kicked Goldie away from his poor slippers. He wanted to buy a few bags of teething sticks for Goldie to chew on. This guy had entered the teething stage. If his teeth didn't bite something, he would feel uncomfortable. Fortunately, he didn't dare to bite people. Otherwise, Poplar Fruit would rather lock him in a cage than let him play with Kiki all the time. The teething sticks from abroad were actually the best in terms of quality and nutrition. When he was playing with Alan's family at the amusement park, Poplar Fruit saw someone feeding his dog a teething stick. The dog ate more than half of it before finishing it. However, Poplar Fruit didn't know at that time, so he didn't buy it by the way. Fortunately, he had a college classmate who went to civil aviation, and often flew around the world. She also opened a shopping shop so he could buy it from her. "You're playing with Papa's cell phone again." Poplar Fruit looked at Kiki, helplessly took out his cell phone, knocked on her little head and said, "Don't play for too long. Take the photos back to Papa when you're done." "Yes, sir." Chi-Chi mischievously said something in French. Then, she giggled as she held her father's phone and ran to the side, dragging the gold with her. In Bali, Luo Danny taught Kiki how to use Instagram and helped her register an account. After that, Kiki couldn't stop. She even secretly took her father's cell phone and asked Luo Danny to teach her how to take selfies and upload them. Later, Poplar Fruit found that there was a new app in his cell phone. He opened it and found that it was all the little girl's narcissistic selfies. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he grabbed Kiki and scolded her. Of course, Kiki's selfies were very ordinary. Originally, Kiki's hands were small. In order not to slip, she usually held the cell phone and then used her thumb to take the photo. In this way, most of the time, she took photos with her head down. The light and angle were a mess. Sometimes, only Kiki's little nose could be seen. However, Poplar Fruit didn't intend to teach her. Instead, he let her explore on her own. Perhaps she would make rapid progress if he taught her, but it was far less satisfying than exploring on her own. However, this time Kiki didn't play with Goldie for long. Poplar Fruit soon heard Kiki's childish voice say into the phone, "Hello. Who are you?" It seemed that there was a phone call. Poplar Fruit put down the book and stood up from the sofa. "Who am I? Who are you?" Hee. The little girl was being naughty again. "I'm Kiki. Who are you? Who are you looking for?" Kiki finally answered. Poplar Fruit walked to her side. He didn't say anything and wanted to continue watching her reaction. Poplar Fruit is Kiki's father. Kiki didn't know how, but the other party's voice came out from the speaker. Kiki and Goldie were so scared that they trembled. They couldn't hold the cell phone steadily, and it happened to hit Goldie. Fortunately, Goldie's fluffy hair was soft. It didn't hurt the cell phone, nor did it break. Poplar Fruit hurriedly rescued his cell phone from Goldie's mouth, which was about to explode and fight to the death with the cell phone. "Papa, it's Grandpa Luo." Kiki immediately pretended to be innocent. She put her two little hands behind her back and carefully looked up at her father. Poplar Fruit didn't intend to pursue the matter. He rubbed Kiki's little head and took the phone to the sofa on the side to answer it. "Professor Luo." Poplar Fruit pressed the speaker button and greeted with a smile. Without Kiki saying anything, Poplar Fruit recognized Professor Luo Lin's voice when the voice came out just now. "Ah." Professor Luo Lin laughed. "Poplar Fruit, you really came back." "I just came back last night." "Professor Luo, you're really well informed." Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said with a smile. After coming back, Poplar Fruit's hair was no longer as curly as it was when he was in Bali. It gradually returned to its original appearance. Although curly hair was handsome and had a charming British style, Poplar Fruit preferred natural beauty. He didn't like to worry about his hairstyle every day. If it weren't for the fact that he just came back and didn't have time, Poplar Fruit would have cut his hair back. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to. Chapter 795. Poplar Fruit was very surprised to receive Professor Luo Lin's call. He was surprised not because Professor Luo Lin called him, but because he called him at this time. A few days ago, Professor Luo Lin spoke up for Poplar Fruit in front of the media. Then Poplar Fruit's own teacher, Chen Zongdai, had no choice but to speak up for Poplar Fruit. Of course, most of them emphasized that Poplar Fruit was a student of Higashiyama University, and that Higashiyama University would always support him. This created a confrontation between the public and the private. Even the general public could see that Higashiyama University was in a difficult position, and that Beijing International Studies University was coveting Poplar Fruit. This incident became an interesting topic for many students on the internet. However, it was quickly overshadowed by the news that Poplar Fruit and Beckham are good friends. Professor Luo Lin's intentions were clear. Although Poplar Fruit had a good impression of Professor Luo Lin, he could not stand Chen Zongdai's constant talk about the threats outside of Beijing. He asked with a headache, Professor Luo, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Hee. Professor Luo Lin avoided the topic and laughed first. He said, Little Yang, you don't have to be so wary of me like Old Man Chun. Did Old Man Chun tell you to be careful of Luo Lin, the human trafficker? No. Poplar Fruit clenched his teeth and said against his will. Hee, you're already a dean. Why are you still so petty? Professor Luo Lin acted as if he did not hear Poplar Fruit's denial. He continued, he's not good at this. He has no tolerance. If I were the dean of Higashiyama University, I would definitely do a better job than Chun Zongdai. Ahem. Poplar Fruit couldn't refute his master's words in front of his disciple. He coughed dryly and didn't want to continue the conversation. By the way, Poplar Fruit, our school has an exchange program with your school next year. Why don't you come over and take a look? I know you have a girlfriend, haha. Professor Luo Lin revealed his foxtail. But isn't Zheng Yujie in Beijing? No, Professor Luo. I'm sorry, but the focus of my career next year should be in Guangdong province. There's a new publishing house that I will join. Poplar Fruit said with a bitter smile. He didn't tell Professor Luo Lin that Zheng Yujie was coming back to Yangcheng next year. After all, Zheng Yujie was still working at Dongxin Publishing. Okay, in that case, I'll send a few good students to Higashiyama University in the second half of the year to learn from you. You have to guide my students. Professor Luo Lin said with a smile. He felt like he couldn't be defeated, and the more he was defeated, the braver he became. However, he had a good mentality. After knowing Poplar Fruit's true strength, Professor Luo Lin didn't show that he was superior. In fact, he even put Poplar Fruit on the same level as himself. Poplar Fruit believed that if he and his students met, Professor Luo Lin would make his students call him teacher. While chatting with Professor Luo Lin, Poplar Fruit had a question in his heart. Why is he looking for me? Looking for him to exchange? Poplar Fruit felt like Professor Luo Lin already had the answer in his heart. He only asked casually. As if he heard Poplar Fruit's doubts, Professor Luo Lin smiled and said, Poplar Fruit, do you think I called just to tell you this? Poplar Fruit scratched his head and asked, Professor Luo, why are you looking for me? Someone asked me to come here. Professor Luo Lin laughed and said. Asked by someone? Poplar Fruit was confused and asked, who is it? You've met him before. He's a big star. Professor Luo Lin said mysteriously. Big star? Met him. Poplar Fruit's first impression was Prince Zhou, who he met at Bali Fashion Week. Prince Zhou could be said to be his biggest star. However, this matter shouldn't have anything to do with Prince Zhou. How could Prince Zhou have any relationship with Professor Luo Lin? Relationship? This was a very good way to think about it. Poplar Fruit started to think about the celebrities that Professor Luo Lin might know or have some relationship with, and he really thought of one. Moreover, it was someone he met walking with Professor Luo Lin. Professor Healing? Poplar Fruit asked in surprise. The last time Poplar Fruit went to Beijing, he met him when he was walking with Zheng Yujie at Beijing International Studies University. That's right. Professor Luo Lin laughed. Then guess again, why did he ask me to look for you? Happy Base Camp. Poplar Fruit said speechlessly. Was there a need to guess? Professor, he was almost synonymous with Happy Base Camp. It was almost, because there were a few other good hosts. Hee. As expected of Poplar Fruit, your brain is more flexible than the average person. Professor Luo Lin praised. That's right. Healing wanted to invite you to Happy Base Camp, but not just him. Even the entire Mango Station doesn't have your contact information. Later on, he remembered that I knew you, so he came looking for me. Poplar Fruit was really confused. He scratched his head and asked, why did he invite me to Happy Base Camp? I'm not a superstar, and aren't Happy Base Camp only hosted by A-listers? Why would anyone watch if he invited me? Poplar Fruit really didn't have any intention of becoming famous. He didn't know that if he hadn't gone to America and his whereabouts hadn't become strange, there would have been reporters surrounding him the moment he returned to China. A few days ago, there were even paparazzi waiting inside Higashiyama University. However, they were all chased away by the security guards. You still don't know? Professor Luo Lin asked in surprise. You don't know how much the newspapers have been hyping you these past 2 days. At first, it was very noisy, but that Luan told the reporters that you were the best male model she had ever seen. And then the newspapers started talking about you. Now, there's a saying that you're Asia's top male model. With the domestic public's boastful public opinion, it was really possible. However, Poplar Fruit was speechless. He said, "Professor Luolin, you don't believe it, do you?" "Believe it or not." Professor Luolin laughed. "But I think you'll do well in the modeling industry. You'll be #1 in Asia soon." "Forget it, I'm not interested in modeling." Poplar Fruit smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Why did Professor he invite me?" "Of course it's because you have a topic to talk about." Professor Luolin laughed. "You're too mysterious. If you're invited to the show, the audience will know what kind of person you are, and how you became famous. I believe a lot of people will like to watch it." "Should I participate?" Poplar Fruit really hesitated. If it was someone else, Poplar Fruit would definitely refuse, but because of Professor Luolin's face, Poplar Fruit couldn't directly say no. Besides, Professor he was also a host that Poplar Fruit liked. Fastbook was the only domestic variety show that he and Fong Beibei liked. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendations. Greater than over equal to asterisk, that you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.